Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Andy McNamara.
Oh, whoa, hello.
Andrew Reiner.
Huh?
Dan Tech.
Hey, what's up?
The dream team is here once and for all.
It's certainly our dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining me, guys. We got a lot to cover today. Hey, new cover story. That's always exciting. Best time of the month.
What is it?
We put, Dan, get this. I'll not look at these two at the end of the table who made this decision.
All right.
We put an RTS on the cover of Game Informer in the year
that's
2018. Not only that, it is a remake of an RTS.
Is it?
Isn't that a cool thing?
I think it is, yeah.
I love it. Andy, I want to talk to you about this. We'll talk about it in the future.
All right,
we'll talk all about it. It'll be fun.
Got it.
Other stuff. BlizzCon overall. We'll give the big recap. Obviously, Warcraft 3 Reforged, what we're hinting at. We might talk about Diablo Immortal. Turns out the internet has opinions on that one, and Dan Tack and I have played it.
I've played it a couple times now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll get Kyle and Jeff Corkin here to talk about some little Japanese games. That'll be cute. And then community emails. In the back half of the show, we've talked a lot about Red Dead. I think everybody has almost exhausted their opinions on Red Dead, or people are getting close at least. So we're calling in the backup team, which is a group of developers.
So consumers and editors, they're done.
No one's allowed
Now
to talk
it's
about
Game
Red
Dead.
Dead.
Okay.
That's right, yeah.
I
We
missed it.
passed the mantle, and they got to Skype in to talk all about it. So much like we did with Breath of the Wild a long time ago, if you recall, Dan Tech, that game that you haven't played yet.
I guess what? I haven't played Red Dead either, so.
What are you doing with your life? Anyways, we've got developers to talk about and share their thoughts and insight on Red Dead Redemption 2, so that should be fun. Out of the gate, a couple things. Thank you to everybody that watched Extra Life and donated Extra Life. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Thank you, Jill, intern in the booth, and JP for doing an awesome job. We raised over $78,000 now.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Specialty healthcare.
Incredible.
Crazy.
It's wild. And especially when you think of like the viewership, you know, it was solid throughout, but it was around, I don't know, between like 700 and maybe 2,000. And like to pump out those kinds of donations from that crowd, it's just incredibly generous community.
25 hours of content.
I noticed, that was a lot. Oh, also, thank you. Some people might have noticed that I'm bald now, so thanks for shaving my head for $2,000. It's okay. It's kind of a relief.
Well, you got a good deal.
Thank you. You walk by a mirror and then realize, like, oh, I don't have to worry about my hair at all. It's just completely out of the picture. Showers feel cool. Rain feels cool. Pillows feel cool. It's a good
Whatever
deal.
you got to tell yourself, you go with it.
I don't look cool. Also, a couple other things. Hitman 2. Jeff Marchiafava.
Where's Leo?
Yeah, exactly. Jeff Marchiafava is playing it right now. We're going to talk about it next week when Leo Vader is back in the office because he's an expert, and I'm sure he will have 1 million thoughts on that game. Also, another thing, Overkill's The Walking Dead came out on Tuesday, Ryan.
Yeah.
We played a little bit of it. We did a new gameplay today of it.
I was on that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we showed it off.
Not a great first taste.
Yeah, so this is from the creators of Payday 2, which is a very popular game. Matt Miller's reviewing it, and he's having a tough time with matchmaking. It seems a little bit broken in a couple places. He wrote a whole laundry list you can find on the site just of issues he's having, so review might be a little bit delayed until that one comes out. But at this point, it seems like he's saying, don't buy it.
Yeah, and I would echo that off of the 40 minutes we put into it.
Yeah, you know, I hate to indicate
Bad first taste. That's
bad first taste.
exactly
Is it
what
very
is.
accurate?
We'll see where it goes, but yeah, it's a rough start.
Yeah, for sure. Also, real quick, Imran has played the PlayStation Classic. I think he has impressions on the site, GameInformer.com. His quick take was, it's pretty simple. Bare bones, like no menu music. It's just basically a list of these games that you can jump through. Which,
Yeah, just click play.
all right, that seems all right. Also, Quiet Man, JV has played, but we're waiting for the review on that thing until the patch coming soon where they add more audio to the Quiet Man. This is a
Supposed to
real
be
thing.
quiet.
Yeah, this is a real thing that they're doing.
Yeah,
so
it's a weird launch.
I don't know what's going on with that. But let's talk about fun stuff.
Fun stuff.
Warcraft 3, Reforged. Andy, you're an old school Blizzard fan, right?
Yes.
Tell me how this cover happened. This is such a cool thing.
Well, I mean, I think it's we did Blizzard. We did a cover for StarCraft Ghost like a billion years ago, right? Which was actually, they showed us the game here in this office. We were at this office. We weren't at Eden Prairie. We were here. So, we were pretty blown away by it and excited. And that was just a time when we had a chance to work with Blizzard when they were kind of going in that direction. And I think over the last 5 or 6 years, Dan's done a lot of work to create a great relationship with Blizzard. And when the opportunity, which was like a phone call, which we did at the office too, by the way. Blizzard wants to talk about a possible cover. We're like, Diablo 4, you know, like
Overwatch 2.
Overwatch,
Overwatch 2,
we do the same thing that all the attendees at BlizzCon did, right? Of like coming up with crazy ideas. And actually, that was not something that I thought the meeting was going to be about. And then I was like, whoa, wait, that's awesome. I'm kind of excited. Like that's really cool, especially too once they explained to us that it wasn't going to be, not that there's anything wrong with what they did with StarCraft.
It's cool, yeah.
But they kind of kept it, they were like, we're going to keep it so like the original, right? You know what I mean? They really wanted to be that. Where in this case, they want to take more liberties and kind of go outside of the bounds of the original a little bit, which I thought was exciting, especially because I feel like it's one of those games that's going to be on top 100 lists forever. Right? You know what I mean? Like Warcraft 3 is that big a deal. So I was excited for the opportunity. So it was like super cool. Thrilled. So it was like, but it was more like trying to convince the rest. I thought when I brought, we got out of the meeting, Dan and I was like, had to go explain to all the editors what the idea was. I thought for sure they were going to laugh in my face.
Well, that's the thing. Like it's like, yes, it's an old game. That was the one thing that was really holding it back, right? Like it is on these legacy lists, but at the same time, we're always looking for interesting stories to tell. Not just show the best new games coming up. But this was like a really cool story from one of the best developers about one of the best games, right? Like it just seemed like a kind of a slam dunk in terms of a 10 to 12 to 14 page story in the magazine. It reminded me I wanted to read that.
Totally. It reminded me of like our Mega Man cover story where it's more of like, let's just celebrate this Warcraft concept for a whole month of coverage. It's a fun time just to zoom out a little bit and appreciate Blizzard, appreciate Warcraft, and then specifically Warcraft 3, because even talking to the folks, the old school developers at Blizzard there, they realized the more they talked about it, like, oh yeah, that's right, kind of everything came from Warcraft 3. Like you think about like the tentacles that come out from Warcraft 3, it is mind-boggling.
And just for a developer to be like, this is one of the greatest games out there. Mm-hmm. Let's make it even better. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's just a cool thing. So, yeah.
And I think
read that story. It's a fun read.
It is a good read.
And I think it's cool that people can, that you can experience without it like looking like old and worn down. Do you know what I mean? I think that it's an opportunity for a lot of people who've never played it. I even had friends who were talking about it during the announcement or seeing our coverage and saying like, oh, you know what? I didn't play that back in the day. I'm excited to finally get a chance to play it, right? Or for like me, I was saying earlier, I don't remember playing. It's been so long and played so many games between here and there. It's like I'm excited to go back and do it again. And so I think it's cool that a game like that will exist and it gets a chance to be on the BattleNet game downloader. So it's kind of like always there. And I've used that numerous times to go like, for a while I had StarCraft. I owned it, but I couldn't use the downloader to get to it, and I always forgot about it. And then everyone's going to go like, "Oh yeah, that's right, I totally own this game."
Yeah,
and so it'll help like remind people to play it, and me especially. I think it'll be great that it'll be up for it, and then of course get cool things in WoW too.
That's really what matters. I see how this is. Let's run through BlizzCon a little bit here, Dan.
Sure.
Okay, did we all watch the big keynote?
Yes.
Okay, out of the gate, what stood out, Reiner? What did you like?
Well, obviously, when Jeff Kaplan came out, that auditorium just exploding.
Well, mainly because it was like a reaction towards Hearthstone's audio not working. So I think they're excited for just anything.
But just seeing that, the enthusiasm people have for Overwatch, and then them introducing like a really cool, dynamic new character or hero for that that shooter, it's still one of the best games. Like seriously, like in my top 3 each year now.
I love that. Obviously the cinematic's great. I mean, it got multiple laughs from the office, multiple spots during that trailer and stuff. But just the teasing of, they show 3, maybe more new characters throughout that video, and you never have any idea which one's going to be the playable one. Well, it seems like it's going to be that Ashe character because it's voiced by Jennifer Hale. But then who's this other robot climbing out? They're really hyping up this Bob robot. Like, who is it going to be?
It was totally going to be the Omnic Sniper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
dude, I thought when he talked about it afterwards, and he was like, "Is it this one? Is it that one?" He was setting us up for it's all of them. I really thought we were going down that path. I would have been like, "That is insane!" If they would have done that.
Yeah. Well, they kind of got close, right? Because Bob is technically in the game. Can you explain how this works, Dan?
So Bob is the ultimate ability for Ashe. He comes out, he does like a massive like pop-up thing, and then he shoots 16 shots, I believe, from his gun. It's a huge amount of potential damage. You can stun him out of it and everything, but it's basically like having an extra character on the field for the time he's on the table, and he can actually like cap points and stuff too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, he can.
So
Jesus Christ,
he's wild. It's a great new mechanic, like super fun to have. everybody loves summons, everybody loves call-ins, and he's got a lot of character himself. Like that point where in the cinematic where he does a little oil sweat droplet thing, that was just hilarious. He's got a little hat. Come on, like. Do
you think that the timing of Ashe's release, that they thought about it in terms of people are going to be at peak Western hype right now because of Red Dead? That it has to be one discussion.
I don't think so.
Just completely devoid of that.
I think because they've already they've been working on like McCree and Route 66 and all the stuff that with the Deadlock gang, I think it is, or whatever. Like that's been behind the scenes for a while. So like, I don't think it's related. Sure. It's an interesting point though.
Thank you, Dan. I thought it was very interesting too. So they also covered, it's interesting that they got out of the gate, too, by talking a little bit about, hey, look at Battle.net. Hey, Destiny 2, it's going to be free on PC.
Yeah.
Not much of a reaction from that crowd. It seemed like every time they talked about other games in Battle.net, I was like, okay.
That crowd's not there for that game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just simply how it is. I mean, the people who go to BlizzCon are super hardcore, diehard Blizzard fans, right?
So 100%.
Yeah. And then, quick things with StarCraft 2, like, hey, Zeratul, Co-op Commander, all that stuff. And then WoW Classic seemed to get a good reaction.
WoW Classic, I can't believe, like, I thought they were going to make some changes. I knew it was going to be Classic, but now it's legit as it was. So it's got weapon skills, it's got pet happiness, it's got ammo, it's got poisons. No LFG, no LFR, nothing. You are there as it was in those days.
Andy, you going to play this thing?
I'm gonna check it out.
Okay. That's scary.
It's hard to go home again, kind of thing. Like I'm excited for it, and I think one of the things that kind of put me in where I'm gonna like put my just kind of step into it was that they're not gonna let it share achievements or any kind of like transmogs or anything like that. So it's gonna be its own kind of pillar, its own game. So for me, that kind of, for one thing, it's nice because it doesn't put any pressure on someone as a WoW player to be like, well, now I have to play Classic to get things in the regular game that I want. So that's good. But I mean, I remember being in 40-man raids, and they were like disasters. And I remember being a shaman, and I had to heal because they wouldn't let us do anything else, and healing was like one button.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are a lot of things about that early design that were great and fun. And like leveling took a long time, and there was a fun like exploring the world element. But I mean, I've seen that world, by the way. I've done the grind. I've experienced a lot of those raids. I do kind of want to. I mean, I kind of do want to go in and do the race to like kill the raid and then log out and not log back in again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'm excited. I'm excited that people are excited about it. Does that sound weird?
Yeah, it's a little weird, but it's also crazy that they're just giving it away for free to anybody that has a subscription.
Right,
I didn't expect that at all.
You get to play it if you got a sub, which is really great. Because like I didn't want to go back either, and I still kind of don't, just because I know what it was like, and it's probably a lot better in my mind than it actually is. But to go back and like go do some of the dungeons that have been changed and renovated over the years, to see them back as they were, like especially like Scholomance and stuff, a dungeon that's gone over several renovations since then and doesn't play anything like it used to. I'm just really curious to go explore that kind of stuff again.
Yeah, for sure. So it seemed like maybe the most buzz, arguably, I think realistically, coming out of BlizzCon, Diablo Immortal.
Yeah, everybody's just
the
jacked
most
for
buzz
this thing.
or the most
the most discussion. Let's put it that way. Right? This is such a tough case. What a tough one. So Wyatt Cheng, the lead game designer, gets out there, sets up that it's a mobile game, which thank God they did that, because when we were at the studio, we talked to several people about like, you aren't just going to show the cinematic first, right? You're going to explain this is a mobile game so people don't get their hype too high. And they're like, we don't know yet. But thank God they explained it's a mobile game. But even that couldn't cut into the reaction of people just being outraged that this is not a PC game. Dan, what was it like in the room?
I've been to a lot of BlizzCons.
Yeah.
This was certainly the only time that I can think of that it was, I don't know, it was so down. There was nothing. There was no reaction, which is terrible, right? For BlizzCon situation when you've got everybody waiting on every word, ready to love what you're throwing out there. I think the net, as soon as that NetEase symbol went up, that was when people started like looking at each other and raising eyebrows. And then I've never seen anything like it. Just dead silence.
Really?
I mean, well, not completely dead, but compared to every single other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was marked. It was very noticeable.
And then it just seemed to grow and grow and grow throughout the weekend of people getting more and more hurt. Like even friends who are like barely into games, like, yeah, I heard there's some new Diablo game that's spitting on the grave of everything Diablo stands for. And it's like, well.
So I'm not certainly not in the spitting on the grave camp and all that stuff. I mean, I think having a mobile Diablo game is fine. Like having a mobile, any of these games is fine. But this is For one thing, there's a lot of different elements that came into creating this sort of perfect storm for this reveal.
Totally.
They're ending on it, so it's a big closer, right? It's a NetEase partnership. We have no reason to believe that it's going to have anything but a monetization model that NetEase is known for at this point.
Well, and NetEase is they make a bunch of mobile games in China specifically. Correct. All free to play?
No, I don't know that for sure, but that's the majority. They are a microtransaction.
Do you know
model.
if they're known for having aggressive microtransactions?
They are known for having aggressive microtransactions.
Okay, but Blizzard hasn't said anything yet, but clearly this thing's going to be free to play.
I mean, they haven't said anything, so we can't say anything. But
well, I mean, if I was a gambling man.
It is a fair, I have no reason to believe that it will be anything other than that at this point, correct?
Well, I mean, it feels like it's a game that they're making to try to get Diablo in front of more people.
Certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Certainly.
I mean, I think that's at least my instinct on that. And like, free to play is how you, if you want to market a game on mobile, and particularly a brand, I mean, free to play is how you do that.
Yeah.
That's for certain. Again, so this is another case of like expectations and place and timing and all this other stuff. Like, if this was revealed at some other show, like as an off thing, no one would have cared. But as the centerpiece or the closer for Blizzard's house, right? Like it's a tough sell. And
I think from Blizzard's point of view, it's like it's a new Diablo game, and I think from their point of view too, they tried to, because the hype was building for this thing, and they put out a statement that some sites picked up and ran, saying, "Hey everybody, these are very exciting times. We currently have multiple teams working on different Diablo projects, and we can't wait to tell you all about them when the time is right. We know that many of you are hoping. We know what many of you are hoping for, and we can only say that good things come to those who wait, but evil things take longer."
Right.
That was their very cutesy way of just saying, like, don't expect Diablo 4, but that doesn't hit the mass audience. And so some people, I think, were still expecting that, and then just hearing, what is this mobile thing? Which I understand people being upset that the next Diablo isn't announced. We don't know anything about it. But at the same time, I think it's important to note that this mobile game isn't slowing down the development on the next main Diablo game. Like, don't see this as a replacement for that in any way.
I don't even know if it's not just that. Like, a lot of people see this as a shift in the culture, you know, and like absolutely. And you know, I don't know. It's a strange thing to land, to have as their linchpin for BlizzCon as it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think overall, like last year's BlizzCon was really good. They had a lot of announcements, right? So you're going off a high to a low. I think this gave an opportunity for a lot of people to create their own optics around it. I mean, I heard so many crazy stories that were like, this is why Mike left.
Totally.
This is the new CEO's finally bowing down to like what Activision wants. And you're like, Activision's owned Blizzard forever. You know what I mean? Like it has nothing to do with that. It has more to do with like Hearthstone makes more money than probably a lot of the key franchises, maybe even Diablo, right? Like, you know, as like it I don't know the financials, but it's realistic when you have a game that got as big as Hearthstone got. And I think Blizzard as a company is investing a lot of money in esports and giving a lot, I think, around their games and building things around their games. And to be like, hey, we want to like, if we want to spend the $100 million we want to spend on Diablo 4, and I'm making that number up, right? Like, we need to make a bigger audience for Diablo. How do we do that? I mean, these are questions I think I would ask if I was, you know, like trying to run Blizzard and trying to run Diablo and looking at where we're making money and where we're not making revenue.
Yeah.
And to think, I mean, the reality is there's a ton of people who play mobile games, right? And that's all they play. I have friends that do that now, and I'm like, that's weird. That's all you play, right? I do play mobile games, but it's like a complement to my normal gaming routines, right?
Yeah.
But there's people in the world out there that can only play on phone, right? Or only have an opportunity to play on phone. And I mean, I can't get mad at Blizzard for wanting to give games to other people. Like, Diablo's a great series. Maybe they'll do something good with it in this space. I don't know if the game's good or not yet, but like, I'm hopeful. I'm going to try it.
It's about what you'd expect.
Yeah.
You know, it controls about as well as you'd imagine virtual joysticks controlling a Diablo thing. Inventory is a little bit wonky because we
haven't seen what it's really like in the inside the inventory yet.
It's just a matter of like, hey, here's this piece of equipment on the ground. I guess I'll just tap it to auto equip it here and keep things rolling. So it's a little bit like simplified and streamlined that way so far.
Yeah, and it's okay to be disappointed that it wasn't the game you wanted.
Right.
That's fine, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to like say this game's a disaster until I play it and truly grasp what it is. Like, Blizzard entering the mobile space, I want to know what that is. That could be something completely different.
They've been there.
They've been there, and this isn't really them. But although...
Right, but it has their name on that, and I want to see... Right. And it's one of their flagship franchises, and I want to see what that is before I weigh in on it completely.
Now that said, they screwed up.
Oh, yeah.
What they came and the way that they showed things at... I mean, I think even the Tuesday before that, I think Joe was in the meeting, goes like... Well, I mean, they're showing Diablo 4 there, and I was like, we don't think so. And he was like, well, that would just be dumb. To just kind of matter of fact. And I think a lot of people see that as the kind of obvious optic problem of that's what you're hanging your hat on. But obviously Blizzard didn't see it that way, right?
Totally.
And I think, I think people were. I haven't heard people saying they just started Diablo 4 now because everyone was so mad about Diablo Mobile.
Insane.
And it's just
there's no way.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean, Blizzard screwed up in the way that they showed this and presented it and closing with it and not having some kind of teaser, even simple, that was Diablo appears 2020-ish.
All return.
On PC, right?
Totally.
You know what I mean?
And Kotaku had that story that they were discussing that there were strong discussions about teasing Diablo 4.
Debunked, though.
Well, no.
Yeah,
Blizzard came back and said they
debunked.
had nothing that they were going to show.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was just the idea of them filming the video specifically for that.
No, they said they did not pull anything from their show.
Interesting. Okay.
That doesn't mean the game isn't in development.
Right.
But to your point, I think that's something Bethesda does really well. When they announced Fallout Shelter, that was in the wings of Fallout 4.
Right.
Elder Scrolls, what is it called?
Blades?
Blades? Oh, God. Elder Scrolls Blades, they, at the end of that show, announced a quick teaser for Elder Scrolls 6.
Right.
So
it's always got to be a 1-2 punch there.
They definitely realized that people were going to be mad about multiplayer Fallout, mobile, Elder Scrolls. Yeah. By the way, we're still doing what you want. Right? Right. Elder Scrolls did do that.
Now, if Diablo 4 is going to be made exclusively for VR, maybe it was good that they didn't announce that. But they should have had the teaser in maybe it's not going to be called Diablo 4, but some kind of name or something coming to PC or something.
Right. Or just the words Diablo. That's all you got to do.
Or reorder it.
Nobody
do
knows
Overwatch last. Do Diablo at the beginning.
Right.
If they would have closed on Warcraft 3, that's just nothing but goodwill. The community was ready to eat that up.
I agree.
Yeah, it's an odd choice for sure. But I don't know. What are you gonna do, Dan?
I don't think I don't think you're a whiny man baby for being disappointed about this reveal.
But I do think I totally agree.
Certainly.
But I mean, I read way too many YouTube comments and some of the hate going towards Wyatt Cheng in
Obviously,
particular, that is outrageous. That dude loves Diablo more than most people on Earth.
There's a difference between disappointment and we need to kill Blizzard, right? And it's and that's those are the extremes.
Obviously, that stuff is not acceptable whatsoever.
Yeah.
But,
and I heard people that were literally saying that Diablo was done, that the franchise was dead forever because the drama that went along with it. It's one thing to be like, well, that sucks. I want a Diablo 4. To this franchise is dead forever. Blizzard is dead forever. They're going to make WoW a mobile game. It's just oh God.
Yeah. In an interview, though, the new president, J. Allen Bragg, who you talked to, right, Dan?
Yeah, I did.
Reset Era just pointed out yesterday that he did confirm that they were making more mobile games and some more completely internal. And there were job postings a while back about a mobile RTS with familiarity with the Warcraft franchise. So I'm hoping that one is internal and it's some sort of unique mobile take on a Warcraft RTS. That sounds very exciting. And I think I look forward to their mobile efforts, even if I'm not clamoring to play Diablo Immortal.
There's so many factors that went into making this what it became and spiraled out of control into. And one of those was the fact that it wasn't completely internally developed. The NetEase Association is not giving them any kind of goodwill here.
Especially
but the NetEase thing definitely says the other team is doing something else.
Yeah, it's not taking away from what you
100%.
want.
100%. And their cute spin on it was back with Diablo back in the day, I mean, it was Blizzard North that was making that. So it's kind of working with an external partner. And it's but come on, Blizzard, it's a little bit different. And they were very cagey too. They wouldn't talk about who exactly is doing what, how the development's being split, but it seemed pretty clear that NetEase is picking up the bulk of development here, and then Blizzard's kind of, showing the rough direction and all that. But hey, 6 classes, Dan? What do you think of actually playing this thing?
Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, there's not a lot there to play in the demo, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't blown away or anything. It feels a lot like other similar games in the same vein. I didn't get the extra, most of the time I play a Blizzard game and I lose my mind. Like, it's like, wow, everything is so amazing. I don't think seriously, like, ever since Warcraft 1, right? And it's just like, I'm just like, wow, this is great. This is really great for X reasons. And I'm just like, here, I'm like, I feel like I've played this. And, all right.
Yeah, you know, like, the thing is, I think what disappointed me maybe about it was that, like, I like the idea of that. Like, that's why I love Diablo on my Switch. I was like, my playing travel is never going to be the same again. Totally. You know, Diablo on a platform like that I know it's going to, you know, not be 100% PC, you know, but I mean, like, be a great version of that game. Like, I'm totally sold. Is that I do kind of fall into, like, a lot of people were talking about, like, you know, WoW has a whole pet system and a whole pet battle system, and there's, like, all these, like, Pokemon games or Pokemon Go that people are playing where they do pet battles and things like that, and like that would be fun and one that's complementary to a game that exists. And I really like it when Blizzard thinks of ways to work in and interweave their current games. Do you know what I mean? And it becomes part of that universe.
Yeah.
And like the Diablo Mobile just sounds like its own, you know, standalone kind of thing. I know it's in the lore a little bit, whatever, after Diablo 2.
It's between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like, hey, find out where Deckard Cain was. What's he up to in that gap?
Yeah.
Like,
he's killing demons.
Oh, I'll be damned.
But I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more interesting connections. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's one of the things that was great about Hearthstone too, is that, like, I could play it on my mobile phone, I could play it on my iPad, I could sit at my PC and play it.
And that's another thing that, you know, that was just another. It was just thing after thing after thing where they said no PC, just mobile.
Yeah, it's rough.
Right? Like, just looking for anything, any reason to give them some more goodwill. And
it broke some of the rules we love Blizzard for.
Yeah.
Right? Like, on the way that they do things, right?
Dan, so you spoke to the new president.
I did.
Sat down and interviewed the man.
Yeah, I did.
Is it your first time meeting him?
No, I think I interviewed him for World of Warcraft related stuff years ago.
Okay. Did you learn anything interesting about interviewing Mr. Brack?
I don't know, not particularly. I mean, it had to be a huge step, like, just to take over the reins right now, right? Like, I can't imagine how insane that is. Yeah.
Okay, but no insight? Come on,
not
Dan.
particularly.
Give us something.
I mean, like I said, it was really not a great day for that to happen, you know?
Right. Did you get the sense that they were hit pretty hard morale-wise just by the crazy reaction?
I think they were surprised, yeah. Yeah, I think they expected a better reception than what happened. I mean, I have to expect that they expected some pushback, but not in the way that it happened.
Yeah, they really should have closed on Warcraft 3, which is exciting.
Which is absolutely exciting.
Yeah. So, Dan, we went to Blizzard. We spent 2 days at the studio.
We did.
And it was fun, too, because it was just so much learning about the development of the original Warcraft 3, which
it's fascinating.
From a distance, you think, like, yeah, well, I know, like, a lot of the talent has left, like the big key voices for Warcraft 3, but you forget how many old-timers are still around Blizzard. It felt like when I went to Square for the Final Fantasy 15 trip and just meeting these people, like, oh, hey, here's Derek Duke, and he composed all the music for the Zerg soundtrack. Right. Like, oh my God, I have so many questions. Or like, hey, here's Sam Didier. He came up with the word Warcraft. It's like, what? And his easy explanation was that was his D&D character, which was the opposite of witchcraft.
Yeah.
And so then he just used the name for Blizzard's new game.
Isn't that great?
I just love those little stories.
It's fascinating to go back and see not only the people that worked on the first game, and we're also working on this game, which is crazy, right? But like, just to see how different game development was back then, especially on scrappy teams like Blizzard, like, it's like, yeah, we just did everything. There was no pipeline. We just put people where we needed people. And
which also has its downside too, because then asking about, like, do you guys have like old assets, the old audio recordings, all that stuff? It's like, no, we don't have any of that old stuff.
They're at a computer in a back room somewhere.
Yeah, they're like, we realized we didn't have the Warcraft 1 source code, but then we found it in some hallway or some old tower in there.
Exactly.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, talking to those guys, that was very much the sentiment was over and over again. It's like, let's see, we were just really ambitious kids. Was what Siggety said when we were talking to him. That was definitely the tone. There were the 30 of us that shipped that. Right. I don't know. And then they went right into WoW. And that's such like a clean dividing line of like when that studio had to grow up. Because Siggety was even talking about the transition from Warcraft 3 to WoW and just realizing one day, oh, we need to somehow take subscriptions from people. Like, how do we do that? Like, what is step one for building up this infrastructure when the team is that small? It's mind-boggling.
It was absolutely fascinating stuff. Like, just to go through that history and so much history there, and from people still there. Just wow, you know? It's almost. It's just so much. Like, we're like, I came up with this, and this, all the way to execution, right? Instead of like, putting it through a pipeline.
Yeah, and it's fun too. talking to them and reading about Warcraft 3's development and how originally it was much more RPG focused. The camera was a lot closer. It was called
Legends.
Warcraft. Yeah, it was called Warcraft Legends at that point because they wanted to shy a little bit from RTS. And then at a certain point, like the dam burst design-wise. It's like, let's just make this thing an RTS. Here we go. Let's stop calling it Warcraft Legends. Let's call it Warcraft 3. And that's when a lot of the new team came on. That's around when Siggety came on as well.
Yes.
And is the most fun thing, maybe, from those old timers was talking about like the different races. So ultimately,
Certainly.
it shipped with 4 races.
Correct.
But it's fun because we interviewed Siggety first, the
Depends
producer
who you
of
talk
the
to
game.
there.
Yes, and so he's like, oh yeah. So originally there were 13 races,
Yes.
and then when I came on, I think we had it down to like 8. But then talking to Sam Didier, he's like, I remember there being 9 races
Right.
specifically.
And then somebody else said 6.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the dragon race was by far the most one
What is
of the
this one?
most interesting tidbits from that trip. It's a small tidbit, but it's so fascinating. There was originally a dragon race in the game, and the whole concept of this race was that it was just a single unit. You played as the dragon.
I love
that
it.
was it. You grew up. You got it from baby dragon to giant dragon, and that was it. There was no like buildings. You're our dragon.
Yeah, this
That's
is
a hero class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy though. It's like just taking that to the extreme. And that was Sam Didier remembering that.
Yes.
It was like, who knows how far that got? But then like, other obvious, races back then. They're like, okay, the Tauren obviously were a race, trolls, ogres, demons.
Centaurs.
Yeah, infernals.
The demon and infernal race almost made it in. Apparently that was one of the more fleshed out ones that almost
Right.
made it from like just being, enemies actually a playable race.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also a Didier was talking about like, back in the day, the Night Elves were riding spiders all the time. Just like
The
weird,
dwarves
freaky
were on
stuff.
spiders.
Oh, is that what it was?
He said insects for the Night Elves, yeah, but the dwarves had spiders at one point.
Makes sense.
There was so much just insane stuff. It was great. It was just so great to like how much iteration happens on this stuff before it comes from concept to design to production to where we see it in the final stages. It's absolutely fascinating to watch that sort of unfold.
Yeah, and even it's so fun getting nerdy and specific, especially with a company like Blizzard, because then talking to Siggety about the culling specifically, which was the mission that they showed off at BlizzCon, which is the famous mission where Arthas goes in and kills all the townspeople.
That's right.
And they were
Spoiler
talking,
alert.
sorry, but they're saying that originally it was even like more extreme, that originally the townspeople wouldn't turn into the monsters and then you auto attack them, but in the original version, you actually had to like click attack on these human beings.
And you have to do that now in the current version.
Really?
While they're human, yeah. If you want to kill them while they're
Well,
human.
in Warcraft 3, as it's shipped, that's also the case. Where
Right.
you have to click to attack them when they're human, yeah. But I love the idea of them being human all the time, and you have to like push the mechanics to murder these people. I think it's cooler, but Siggety was on the camp of like, I'm glad we didn't do that.
They were ahead of No Russian before No Russian.
Honestly, yeah, it is the RTS No Russian.
Yes.
It is cool, man.
And it was fascinating to play that mission again and sort of see all the crazy stuff they brought in from World of Warcraft into there. Like landmarks and stuff and bosses from Stratholme, the dungeon, which I'm sure Andy knows. They're in there now.
It was wild. Yeah, they completely changed the entire layout to map or to match WoW. Because I had just played that mission in Warcraft 3 before going on the trip, and then getting down and playing that mission while at Blizzard, just realizing, I don't know where anything is anymore. It's like not a slight shift. It has rearranged the map entirely, just with the same objectives overall. And they're a little bit. It seemed like they weren't clear exactly how many of the campaign missions were going to be completely
No, they
rearranged.
still weren't clear, but talking with them, it was like they were going to them like one by one and saying, yeah, let's change this one, let's change this one. So they're going to pick and choose, I think, but
Right.
I think the goal was to do retrofit quite a few of them.
Yeah, they said Fall of Silvermoon is getting reworked significantly, but beyond that,
Well, they bandied about all kinds of things that could happen, right? Like the game's final mission might even make it back in. There was a mission after the World Tree that was removed. Because everyone felt it was too anticlimactic after that big battle at the end, right? There was another mission, but
You're just playing as a dragon. That's it.
just put the dragon race back in.
Just put the dragon race back in, right? Like,
At least in the mod scene, we got to get that dragon race
would
in
love
there
that.
somehow. Yeah.
yeah, somebody could come up with it. Yeah,
I'd love to know that. I mean, it's obviously a game very much in development, right?
Yeah.
Currently,
Oh,
yeah,
extremely so.
very much
The
so.
big takeaway was that this thing is a lot earlier than you think it is. Even like talking to the writers, the story folks, it's like, yeah, we have a rough first draft done. That's about where we're at. And it was what?
So much of the stuff hasn't been ironed out completely yet. We were only able to play as orc and human at that point. Like, there's tons of stuff getting. It is being still very much in development. Yeah,
And they say 2019 for the release, but
Correct.
They said, as far as how far they are, it was like, what did they say? They said that like the engine work alone, just getting this engine up and running again, was 6 months longer than they were expecting. Because just on a technical level, it's mind-boggling thinking about Warcraft 3's engine became the WoW engine. And so now at this point, they have to retrofit the WoW engine back into the Warcraft 3 engine so they can update the visuals and all that stuff. And the cool thing, because it's Blizzard, they have the guy who originally built the Warcraft 3 engine, of course, working on this to now like retrograde and like completely revise the entire thing, which is nuts.
It's really fascinating. Like it's like this is a really enjoyable story just to go back and see like everything from the past to now and then where it's going is Warcraft rules. Yeah. There it is.
Other big changes that we saw, I mean, they added a couple things like, oh, we have female demon hunters now, female death knights, female zombies.
Alternates for like, not even just like, not just gender swaps, but also like they're just making new variants of all the heroes so that like there's a little variety from those taverns. When you pick a hero, it's not always going to be like, hey, it's Illidan again. No,
and something they're a little bit sensitive about, and it was always a subtle thing of like, we want to kind of modernize some of the character models for the future audience, like the 2020 audience. It's like, what are you talking about? It's just less cleavage on a lot of the characters in the game. Just a little more subtle character design overall. Other interesting thing was for like the inspiration for the new art overall is they looked to a very specific cinematic, which I didn't expect, which was the Mists of Pandaria opening cinematic.
That's right.
And I don't know, Andy, you're a huge WoW guy. I don't know if you noticed this shift, but they saw that as like the end of the kind of like exaggerated Warcraft look. And since then, World of Warcraft has pushed towards more realism. But they said that with that cinematic, they really loved the kind of Popeye jaw on the humans and the more kind of slightly cartoony, old school look.
You got to get the big shoulders, man.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, yeah. And so that's the look that they're going for. That cinematic to push back into Warcraft 3 now for the redesigns.
Well, I mean, I think Blizzard is one of those things, and this is an example I've used when talking about games for I don't even know how long now. But, you know, I think games that you make, games that are going to try to like live forever, when you try to find a tone that works for you that you can stick to, it grows so much better and doesn't become dated as quickly as like trying for like true realism.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I mean, I think Blizzard does a great job of finding an art style that it can grow and you won't notice that it grows. I mean, if you look at old, like even WoW stuff, you can tell how low res it is. But I mean, you can still put it on a new character and it works.
It still looks good. It somehow stands against 15 years. It's like, wow, that still actually looks pretty good.
And I think they think a lot about that. And I think you see things like League of Legends or other games like that they go with a style and rather than like trying to like master realism. Like, you know, what was Epic's game? Paragon?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're like, this is just not going to age well, right? You know, when you looked at the graphics, you're like, I don't think this will age. It looks great, but it won't age like these other games can age. And I think Blizzard always thinks about ways that they can make games that age well. And even though those old Warcraft graphics do look really dated,
there's a charm to them, though, man.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, exactly. And I think that they've always had that kind of, even from the Lost Vikings, even from like Rock and Roll Racing, they've always had a vibe. I think that's been very Blizzard, and they think a lot. They think a lot about that, right? You know.
Yeah. And on that art front, of course, we talk about like, hey, what are you going to remaster next? Which seems like we're running out of runway here. It's got to be Diablo 2. No hints of that, but like, of course it's going to be Diablo 2.
Who knows?
Of course. But, you know, the idea of like, hey, why don't you throw in a little Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2 in here? Because I'm a Warcraft 2 man myself, Dan. I know it's controversial.
I don't know how over 3.
I know. I understand that. I like it. But they talked about like with StarCraft, it was trickier than you think because essentially you have to make 2 games was the way Rob, one of the tech guys over there, explained it. Because for the models, the new like sprites and stuff in StarCraft Remastered, they didn't just like redraw the sprites. What they did is they completely built the models in 3D so they could use it in the future if they needed it to have like these high-res units and stuff from StarCraft, and then took the pictures that then became the new sprites in StarCraft Remastered. So it's not like just redrawing everything for Warcraft 1 and 2. They would have to remodel everything and then in 3D and then make the 2D version of that, which is a weird loop. I didn't expect for that, but I hope at some point, Dan, after, in theory, Diablo 2 gets out there, we can go back and get Warcraft 1 and 2. That'd be so fun.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see because I think StarCraft worked so hard to be, you're not going to notice any difference between this game and that game.
Yeah.
And this game, I think I'm super interested, and it appeals to me that they're taking chances with it, but I do think there's going to be a crowd that's going to be angry that Warcraft 3 isn't like pixel perfect redo of the original. And maybe, you know,
I think you can play it with the original version if I'm not mistaken.
Like, I was going to say that was like if you can do that and kind of like off and on, that they can have that option. We'll keep that in bay and hopefully open the door for more things when they do Diablo 2, as we're guessing, right?
Yeah.
That they can do interesting things in that. I like the idea of them redoing them pixel perfect, but also like reinventing them as well.
Yeah, and it's fun too talking to them about tweaking the script a little bit. They understand a lot of those taunts and jokes are very sacred, but they brought up like there's Star 69 jokes in Warcraft 3. Like
those are good jokes.
How many of those do we keep versus God? Like how much of the charm of Warcraft 3 is associated with that? But yeah, all that raw audio and the original audio they say is going to be in there, even though they're planning on like redoing the casting with the WoW voice actors doing the parts now for all the Warcraft 3 characters and stuff. But talking about like being a little bit less 100% faithful with Warcraft 3, they had an interesting take on it where they said that for StarCraft, they went and consulted a lot of folks in Korea, obviously, and they're like, hey, don't F this up. Keep this one-to-one.
Don't change anything.
Yeah. And their story for this one is Warcraft 3 is apparently very popular in China, and so they consulted a lot of experts and pros over there in China, and they said like, well, we're really into the modding scene, so we kind of want you to push things. We want you to add more modding tools, more flexibility. And so they said that they got the message from the hardcore Warcraft 3 community to kind of go nuts.
They do. Yeah. They are changing a significant amount of things, lots and lots of things. And of course, speaking of the map mod scene, that's always been a hotbed in Warcraft 3. I mean, I played that game for probably 10 years after I would have stopped playing it as its own game.
Just Dota?
Not just Dota, just any of the custom games like Castle Fight, Gem TD, what is it, Battle Boats. There were so many. There were like 1,000. There were like at least 50 good mod maps that I can't wait to see back with people using new tools to make.
And obviously they're a little bit sensitive around Dota overall, but it's nice to see them still kind of celebrate the original Dota, and they see it very much as like, our community kicked ass. I can't believe Dota was so successful. And they even had some line about like, we hope with Reforged that the community can invent new genres like, all over again.
They're going to make Heroes of the Storm in Warcraft.
Just think of the possibilities, Also, Reiner, ready for this hot scoop? We talked about it on the podcast. For the last couple years, I feel like it's been coming up again and again. Like, how many genres do you think Blizzard's tried to make? What have they tried to do? And we asked Sam Didier, who's been there since 1991, if they've ever tried to make a fighting game. He says, and I quote, "Oh, yeah." He says, "We did some back in the day, but they're not really appropriate, and they never really saw the light of day."
What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know if that means they're too bloody or what that could possibly mean.
I would guess that it's just like they're an RPG company and they just weren't appropriate to their audience. That would be my guess.
Maybe.
There's those arcade units in Overwatch.
Yeah,
right.
That kind of tease a
People are always
game.
talking about
I want that.
I know. Just make it real. Maybe that's the next mobile game.
So question
fighter
for you
and mobile?
No, that'd be a disaster.
Did you ask them why not go to 4? Can the company not count to 4 like Valve can't count to 3?
Exactly. Not so much. I mean, we did talk about 4 a little bit. Hypothetically, and it's like, we'd love to see it someday. Who knows? And
whenever we bring 4 up, they shifted the conversation to how awesome Warcraft 3 was and how we need to see it. I mean, that's normal, right? Like,
Of course, but I do love the idea of like this classic games team, which is a whole separate division. It's a really cool division, like this new building, way too far away. It was a long walk to get over to it, over and over again with all the camera equipment. But it's fun, like going in there. I had to go to Blizzard. I walked. But in this building, it's very much under construction. They have like a bunch of trophy cases that are still wrapped in cellophane and stuff. Like it's a cool new space for that classic games team. But in theory, I love this team just like dissecting the hell out of Blizzard's best games, arguably, right? And then at some point, they're going to run out of runway of old games. And like, what does that team do? My dream is that team, who are now RTS experts and have spent all these years remaking this stuff, would then make a Warcraft 4. That is my completely hypothetical dream scenario.
We'll check back in 10 years and see what's going on.
Cut out this clip of the podcast. Send it to me in the future, please. Also, speaking of podcasts and stuff, we have an opportunity to, in theory, no promises, but we'd love to get some folks from Blizzard on the podcast.
Yeah.
And so I want to know from the community who they want to hear from, because we could make it like an answering lingering questions like we normally do, all about Reforged. If you have specific questions about the remake, if you want to just know about Blizzard overall, let us know who you'd like to talk to. You want to learn about the original Warcraft development? What area do you want us to cover? And we'll try and line that up. But no promises.
Jeff
Kaplan. In theory. Well,
I just want to look at him on live camera, just back and forth.
He has become like a full cult of personality going on there, right? Like people worship him.
He looks so comfortable in that arena, like thousands of people, and it was just like, this is home. He did a great job.
Yeah, for sure.
Love that guy.
Anything else you want to share from the trip, Dan?
It was, Diablo Immortal notwithstanding, it's, as always, it's just an incredible celebration of Blizzard and Blizzard community. It's my favorite show out of all the shows.
Yeah.
Despite being just short and 2 days, but man, it is just, it's so awesome to see everybody united around awesome games. I mean, it really is. It sounds like a marketing line, but
awesome
it's true.
things are awesome. Got it.
Everything the optics we got from afar was disaster, right? Like, but once that announcement was done, everybody just went about their way and
Immortal was
right.
Yeah, if you weren't one of those people in the Diablo Q&A hall, yeah.
Well, I think the best thing that happened at BlizzCon happened at the WoW Q&A, which was that Metzen came up and asked, when is Thrall getting the Horde back? which was like people went crazy, and it was nuts that he was like in line to ask questions, at the Q&A, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, that's super cool. Gameformer.com/Warcraft3.
That is.
Which is the URL I never thought I'd say out loud on this podcast, but that's very exciting.
It's happening.
So we're deep dives on the game's lore. Everything we learned about how they're remaking stuff, interviews with some of the old timers,
old-timers, new timers, all-timers, like everything's there.
That's right. All the Blizzard All-Stars will be there. Gameformer.com/Warcraft3. Very exciting. For now, do you guys want to clap out? But Reiner, do you want to come back for emails later on?
I'll be back in a bit, so I'll just do a half clap.
No, but then everyone else has to clap with you. And it can be a half clap, but everybody has to do it alongside you. I'm sorry.
1, 2, 3.
Hello, Jeff Cork.
Hi.
Old Grumster. Kimberly Wallace.
Hey.
I literally just grabbed Kim's arm as she was trying to walk away in the office because I wanted a fourth person here. And Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
Welcome. Stop messing with that mic, sir.
I can't do it.
Quick little discussion about Japan and games and Japanese games, as A4Play would say. First up, From Software's new game released this week. What is this, Kyle? What is it called?
It's called
Déraciné.
Déraciné.
Very beautiful voice.
Which is a word it's an adjective that means like that you feel like you're displaced, like you're in the wrong place.
Okay, so
is that how you felt when you played it?
Yes, because you're sort of an invisible fairy is what you're called, but it's not. When you hear fairy, you think like small creature with wings, but it's really this kind of horrific time traveling creature that can suck the life out of people and give it to other things.
Let's say the key word right here. This is a VR game.
It's a VR game from Software, from the Dark Souls, Bloodborne folks.
Did you see Miyazaki's name in the credits?
He was the director.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, that surprised me as well.
He was holding interviews at E3 about it. Like, he's super excited about this.
Wow.
You need to start paying attention to the games industry.
I didn't know he was literally directing
But no,
it.
I had to say it because I was like, oh, who directed this? I'm sure Miyazaki will be like, but he was director, writer.
He had more involvement here than he did Dark Souls 2.
I mean, maybe, yeah, probably.
Okay, more importantly, how is it?
It's okay. I think it's like Tacoma, actually.
Tacoma Gone Homa?
Tacoma Gone Homa.
Interesting comparison.
Which
for Souls game.
Yeah, it's not a Souls game, but it's from the Souls. It's not what you would expect from that developer for sure. And I think it's the right thing to do with VR because that's something I've always thought about. Like the thing that's fun in VR is like being in an environment and looking around and interacting with things, which is like what you did in like Gone Home and Tacoma. And the reason I reference Tacoma specifically is because you can actually see memories and hear story and stuff like that from memories.
Weird.
Memories from what?
So you're in an orphanage and there's like 5 kids and they're aware of you. They know you exist. They can't see you. What you do is you actually interact with moments frozen in time and you actually jump around in time. So the puzzles it is like an adventure game. So you are like taking objects and giving them to other people in order to complete puzzles. But there's also a time travel element. And the story is good. The dialogue's not great. But the story and like the world that they establish is cool and dark, very dark. Like there's a lot of.
So these are creepy kids?
No, the kids are not creepy. It's actually
when I think kids.
You are the creepazoid, the fairy, like moving through.
You're looking at all their stuff.
Well, I mean, kind of, yeah. It's a very scopophilic game.
Kyle,
but
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a mirror in this game, and can you see what you look like in the game?
No, but I saw another fairy. But so close.
So
could you look down and see like your?
You use move controllers, so you have hands where you're interacting with things, but you could. They're like kind of see-through and orange.
Not what I call yucky.
But it's just okay. I gave it a 7. The story is cool. The world that they establish is dark and cool. Like the majority of the game takes place inside the orphanage. But there is a series of events where you go outside of it and you get to see the larger world a little bit. And it kind of fits that sort of From Software, very ambiguous, very dark sort of mold. And like, so it's not the kind of game that I'd say, oh, if you love Dark Souls, you need to play this.
Right.
But if you're familiar with Dark Souls and you play this, you can see some of that sort of, I hate saying like DNA because we say it all the time.
What if you're not a Dark Souls fan at all?
I mean, if you're more just into like narrative experiences, like
Yeah, that's
Gone
what I'm
Home,
saying.
I think
No.
you would be into this because it's a cool story.
What if we're not really into narrative experiences?
Then don't.
Or interactive experiences.
Then don't
or
play
experiences.
Probably not horrible.
If you want to experience nothing at all, do not put on a headset and play this game.
This is BS. I like the idea, though, that like Miyazaki, after taking control from Software and they handed him the keys to the kingdom over there, and he basically said, hey, you can make whatever you want, that he wanted to make this little bizarre
dark,
adventure thing.
A dark story about saving orphans from death.
Ooh.
The master of metaphor. It's a shockingly big week for PSVR, though, thinking about like this game, which your computer pronounced earlier. And then also Tetris Effect is out on Friday, which we can't review yet, but I've played a lot of the demo, and that seems pretty neat. And Jeff Cork, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I think that the soundtrack is great.
I think it is great as well. I enjoy the songs, and I like to interact with the beats.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. You definitely keep your eye on that one. And then, real quick, Cork, we played Taiko Drum Master.
Yes.
Which came out. I played it on Switch. You played it on PS4.
It's correct.
And I cannot pronounce the full name. Taiko no Tatsujin? Something like that.
I think
Kim?
that was perfect.
Yeah.
You're at least half Japanese at this point, based on all the time you've gone over there. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
What did you think of this little drumming game?
Here's what I think. I adore those games in real life.
Yes.
I really enjoy them, and maybe I need to spend more time with it, but I was very angry when I played it this morning, because it's like you can technically play Guitar Hero games with the controller if you're like a weirdo like Jojuba, for instance, but it is not the optimal way to play it. In much the same way as I would say, like, there are different control schemes for your PS4 controller, but none of them...
Missing the drum.
Yeah, you need the drum.
You can
the
buy
drum
it
is the
externally.
draw.
Yeah, there's only, like, if you have not played them, you have, like, two types of hits. You have, like, a red hit, which is just hitting the surface of the drum, and then a blue hit, which is, like, hitting the rim of it. It makes, like, a little tink sound. That's all there is to it. There are only two different button types that I had to have, and I messed it up consistently, and I got more and more angry, and I just did not like it.
You know what it reminds me of? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it has the Your Name theme, which I am just
That's
like,
true.
Yeah,
There's a lot
that
of-
makes
there's
it great. It has some good songs.
There's some
on
good
it.
anime stuff in there, like a lot of theme songs and
You know
stuff.
what else has a lot of great anime songs?
YouTube?
YouTube. Yeah.
It's true. They do have a song in there that's called like YouTube
theme song.
Yeah, the YouTube theme song.
Yeah, what?
Because they have different categories of the music, and one of the categories is just Namco originals. And I was like, oh, cool, Namco music. It's like, no, that's in another area. This is like original music made by Namco, but then they also have the anime section, and so in that they have the Dragon Ball theme, which is very fun. Head Shala, it's a good time in there, and then. I think in that section, or maybe it's the game section, they also have, because I was playing on Switch, they have Jump Up Superstar, Mario Odyssey. Is that on the PS4?
No.
Oh, okay. And then also Splatoon 2 theme. But then in the anime section, there's a song where I was like, why does that name sound familiar? What is this? In the anime section, they have How Far I'll Go from Moana in Japanese.
Yes. I was listening. We have the game. My fiance was playing it the other night, and I was like, what is that? Because it
It's
sounded
so
familiar,
weird.
and I was like, what's going on? And then also the ABC's theme you can do. Which please don't do that on the hardest level, because it's
Right.
really
What?
annoying to listen to. And I hear it's
It's
annoying to
literally
play.
like the A, B, C. D.
Yeah.
Is it in Japanese or anything cute?
No.
That's Scott Ackerman's favorite song, right?
That's the greatest song ever written.
Can I share the message you sent me this morning about it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Hanson doesn't like to talk about stuff before the podcast.
Or talk at all
Yeah,
before the podcast.
and I was worried about not being on the segment because I wanted to hear what you think. So he sent me a private message on Slack. Cork, you ready for it?
I'm ready for
He
it.
said, "It sucks."
Because I had the same takeaway as you, Cork. We're even playing on the Switch, where you can technically get drumming motions by holding the Joy-Con sideways. It reminded me of, I thought the Killer Queen developers had a very good take on this podcast a while back about if you just bring an arcade game and play it at home, it sucks. They all suck. Like playing a brawler, playing that Simpsons game on your 360, it's like, this is the most boring piece of game design in the world. And it feels like that. We're like in the arcades, when you're banging on a giant drum.
Big ass drum.
Yeah, you can have a great time. Then you're just literally doing it on a controller, or even moving the Joy-Cons. It is the most underwhelming thing.
It feels just puny. And then I was looking online, I'm like, well, how much is one of these dumb controllers going to cost me? And they're like $115
that's what I'm saying. Most
on
people are not gonna
Amazon
buy that.
because you have to import them. And then I'm looking at the reviews for them, and they're like, oh, this is garbage. This is a piece of crap. It's unresponsive. And we're like, oh.
Yeah, so the question, how far I'll go? not very far.
Real quick, do the motion controls does the timing work well, or is it?
I
really
also
just,
had a tough time with that. I recalibrated it even, and it still just felt mushy and not great.
I desperately wanted to have a great time with this.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Desperately.
It'd be so nice if you could plug in like the Rock Band 4 drum set or something.
Literally anything would be better than playing it on a
This gives
controller.
me flashbacks to like Guitar Hero on the DS, which I tried.
Yeah.
and
Oh, that
it's
weird little.
Yeah, like they.
You shove it in the
It
GBA
wasn't
slot.
the same. It was not the same.
I think I beat that game.
Really?
I played
think
it.
so.
Don't get me
You'd
wrong.
be a really good
but-
court reporter, I guess.
Gross. Cam, what have you been playing lately?
Oh man, a lot of Spider-Man actually.
Oh yeah, what do you think?
I'm almost done with it. I like it a lot.
Like a
I'm
lot.
very surprised.
You didn't think you're gonna like it?
You know, I like Spider-Man. I don't love Spider-Man as a superhero, so I thought I had to be a fanatic to do it. But I love the world, and just I like how easy you can get to different side missions and just like get through the world even. So
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun with it.
You know, we talked about it a lot with the Game Club, but something I don't think I conveyed on that was just appreciating how little they stopped your momentum in that open world. Just it feels like everything that's wrong with Sonic, right? Where it's just like you're constantly hitting this one, like, all right, I thought I was having fun. No, I can't go fast anymore. But just having that just completely nonstop flowing sensation. Great.
It's good.
All right, you guys, you want to move on to emails here?
Let's do the emails.
Okay, bye. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have some great emails here, Jeff Cork, that people send to the podcast at GameInformer.com.
I'd like to hear them.
And to help us answer them, we've assembled the dream team. The linguist masters. We have Dan Tack.
Anything that makes the show better.
Andrew Rayner.
Hi.
And Jeff Cork.
Hey!
Oh, boy, this
Remember
is
there
up
was a
to-
character called Count Dooku? Remember that?
In Star Wars?
Yeah.
Darth
We were just talking
Tyrannus.
about old actors before.
I actually think Count Dooku was one of the better characters to come out of the pre.
The name, though?
The name's
not
terrible.
great.
I remember,
Name's terrible.
I remember Katie Wetland, who I went to high school with.
Yeah.
Like, she saw episode 2 before me, and I was like, oh, tell me everything about it. And she's like, there's a guy named Count Dooku. And I was like, what? No way. She's like, yeah, he fights Yoda or something. I was like, what is this movie?
His laser sword's crooked.
When you become a count, do you name yourself like that?
I don't know how it works.
There's someone else naming it for
He
you.
took the name of many Dookus ahead of long before him.
Is it
Please.
like a hut?
Mr. Dooku was my father. Call me Count. Anyways, podcast at GameInformer.com for all your Dooku-related emails, Dooku trivia, anything that makes the show better as long as it relates to Count Dooku, and we'll choose our absolute favorite Dooku email of the week and then honor their hometown by putting
Zelda has the Dooku tree.
Yep,
Ooh.
sure.
Sorry.
The Dooku Clock of Doom? I got nothing. Okay, we got a lot of very nice emails about Extra Life. Appreciate it from Jay Purrington, Chris from New Bedford, and Brendan Smith. Just wanted to give a shout out to those wonderful folks for writing in something very nice. We also got an email here from Nick from Atlanta, friend of the show.
Okay.
He says, hello, Game Informer Show. Hello.
Hi.
Congratulations again on amazing Extra Life. Thank you. It's a great inspiration to see you all work towards helping those in need. A funny thing happened, not in the stream that you all might enjoy. During the Blackout segment, Nick from Atlanta donated to Squad Up with Andrew Reiner. Nick from Atlanta also happened to be watching at the time, and both of us happened to be on Twitch. Further evidence that Twitch is better than YouTube. Oh. Thanks to you, the Nicks from Atlanta were able to meet.
Wow.
Another great result from an amazing Extra Life. Have you ever met your doppelganger? Thanks as always, Nick from Atlanta. Oh, P.S. You may receive another email. They're the fake one. I'm the real Nick from Atlanta. Okay.
I've never met one, but there is always that people always write into this show talking
Yes.
about that one guy who's got the same voice as me.
There's someone, it was like on NPR or something,
I
and
don't
then
know what it
there's an Overwatch.
The Overwatch caster, yeah.
That is 100% you, Dan.
The actor on Better Call Saul, Michael Mondo, looks a lot like me. It's like if some supreme entity was molding two clones. Like he perfected Mondo and then just like half-assed me. So he's like the beautiful version of me.
Cork seems
You're
flabbergasted.
talking about the guy who's Voss on Far Cry?
Yeah.
What?
Everybody, I have gotten so many tweets and emails that this guy has like the same
Goatee?
mannerisms and facial expressions as me. Like dozens upon dozens.
Cork,
I am
his
baffled.
eyeballs are going to fall out of his head.
Yeah,
He's so baffled by
yeah.
that. Let's see, Jeff Cork. Well, there is the wise character, I forget their name, from God of War this year, Mimir. That's pretty much a spitting image of you, I
The
guess.
dumbest ant, probably. I would say him. When I was a lot younger, and this was a more contemporary reference, people said I looked like Bud Bundy from Married with Children. David Faustino himself.
I see nothing.
That's even worse than mine.
I definitely don't see it.
Yeah, no. I don't see that at all.
Yeah.
What was the guy who played Robin? Not Burt Ward or whatever, but
oh yeah, I see that a little bit.
Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah, I see that
Jeff Goldblum said I look like Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah,
really.
You have the eyes. Yeah,
2 of them.
Yeah. Anyways, next email comes from Nick from Atlanta saying, "Hello, Game Informer Show. Congratulations again on Amazing Extra Life. It's a great inspiration to see you all work towards helping those in need. A funny thing happened, not in the stream, that you all might enjoy. During the Blackout segment, Nick from Atlanta donated to squad up with Andrew Reiner. Nick from Atlanta also happened to be watching at the time, and both of us happened to be on Twitch. Further evidence that Twitch is better than YouTube. Thanks to you, the Nicks from Atlanta were able to meet. Another great result for an amazing extra life. Have you ever met your doppelganger? Thanks as always, Nick from Atlanta. P.S. You may receive another eerily similar email from the other Nick from Atlanta. They're the fake one. I'm the real.
I get the joke, but
it's a very good bit.
I love that bit. These guys don't know each other, and they coordinated this joke email saying the other one's the fake Nick from Atlanta. That's amazing.
I didn't like being in the middle of it.
Right.
Because I was like, what do we do? And I was like kind of doing eyeballs like, this is getting crazy.
Yeah.
But then the joke landed, and it was very good.
And it landed perfectly.
It's like, just Nick things.
Just Nick things, baby. Jake O from Blackwood, New Jersey says, hello, Ben and company. I'm sitting here really enjoying Red Dead 2. Cool. We're sitting here talking to you.
Hot take.
Yeah. And I got to thinking about if I'll be seeing this on the next generation of consoles, since this generation is coming to an end in the not too distant future. Kind of like GTA 5 with last gen. Do you guys think that Rockstar will now be releasing one game every console generation due to the amount of detail and content in their games? I do think we'll see next gen port of Red Dead 2. That's such an easy moneymaker.
Easy, yeah.
Probably a port of the PC version, which might be coming.
Yeah.
And Jake also says, and do you know of any other game developers that release games few and far between like Rockstar? Yeah, who is on a Rockstar schedule?
Blizzard, to a degree. But they've moved into like a service pattern now, right?
Right.
Like,
They
keep building.
But even thinking about Blizzard, I was thinking about 2010 when Red Dead 1 came out. That's when StarCraft 2 came out. They managed to get 2 more StarCraft 2 games out the door. And then some, you know.
I mean, if we count all of them as different StarCraft games, which they are, but at the same time, like, come on. It should have been one game.
Yeah, I think they admit that. But yeah, okay, so Blizzard a little bit.
The Blizzard one's tough because you're getting a new WoW expansion, every 2-3 years, depending.
Yeah,
and you got content pipelines for every other game.
This is a little bit murkier because it's not just like a discrete chunk of a development studio, but like Zelda team. Right, 3D Zelda team. They're on the basically once a generation timeline. 3D Mario to some extent. That team, right?
Valve
is on every other generation.
Valve is once every 15 years.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Interesting thinker. Spencer from Boston says, "My name is Spencer from Boston. Allow me to gush my fandom for a few sentences." Oh, thank you. Saying I've been listening to the podcast since the first episode. Jesus, I had a GI subscription since I was 8 years old.
Wow,
awesome.
He's 9. And even flew out to celebrate your 300th issue in Minneapolis. Oh, very sweet. Wow. There we go, Spencer. He says, do you and the panel think that in light of the criticism over pacing and work practices at Rockstar in this game, we have reached the peak of gaming detail and immersion with Red Dead Redemption 2? It seems like the amount of effort is just not going to be duplicated again anytime soon.
I don't think so. There's always higher to climb.
Yep. There's always more.
But it'll be a long time, I think, before we see this level of detail.
Technology is exponential. So I don't think it'll be that long.
For an open world game, yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like, because every corner you go around, every house you enter, it's just bonkers. But if you have something that's like a VR experience or, you know, like a Res Evil where it's corridor based or something like that, yeah, they might be able to attain higher levels of detail.
Yeah. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Remember to send your emails into reddead@gameinformer.com. So many Red Dead emails, but I like it. It's great. Right. Even more Red Dead coming up later. Anyways, Noah from Los Angeles, God's Country. He says, P.S. Don't choose this email for email of the week since I'm already on the board. Congratulations, Noah. He says, hello, Ben and informers of games. Red Dead 2 introduces a ton of systems that haven't really been seen in other games before. Rockstar has a history of introducing systems in an open world game that other open world games incorporate. My question is, what system or systems in Red Dead 2 do you think will be adopted for most future open world games from other developers?
Being able to put your hat back on.
Oh,
it's silly, but I love it. I'd love an Indiana Jones game where you could just have the hat button.
Just constantly. That horse's satchel is just filled with so many of those hats that just keep flying out as they fall off.
It's like the Costco of hats.
Can wind take your hat off in that game, or is it just action?
Action.
Okay.
Yep. So or getting thrown from your horse, stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. God, if I was a cowboy, I'd lose my hat every other day. Because you'd probably end up using it as like a pillow. It'd be the catch-all. It'd be your urine trough.
Yep. I don't think so. I think we leave that one safe.
One that could work for open world that is actually a cool feature that's kind of been done in other games, but the cinematic camera. For if you have a long way to go, if you don't want to just be galloping the entire time, you can hit that and it kind of guides you on its own.
That actually works.
Yeah, like I think
there's an idea. Hang on,
I think that could be something that other games use rather than like the taxi ride or something like that.
Right. That's smart. That's a good one for sure. Nathan from Roanoke, Virginia. Roanoke says, "Hey everyone, hope you're all well." Yes. Let's jump right in. Since Red Dead Redemption 2 launched, I've seen tons of love for one memorable drunken mission in particular. Yep. Furthermore, I've noticed lots of distaste for the mini lackluster third-person shooting mechanics. This leads me to my question. Are gamers craving more interesting mission design and are growing tired of the same old shooting gallery style missions?
Yes.
100%. I think, like, without getting too spoilery, in that drunken mission in particular, I'm like, this is just building to a shootout. And then when it didn't, it was such a good moment of like, oh, thank God, it can just be silly.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of, we talked about it a lot during like the game club for Spider-Man 2 of just, I wish the game was comfortable enough with those MJ sections, just letting them be walking simulators. We don't need those stealth mechanics shoehorned in there. Like, if the story's good enough and for a lot of those chunks it was interesting enough, just wandering around is fine. And a lot of the beats in Red Dead 2, the characters are interesting enough, the writing's great, the performances are great. If the mission was just wander around and look at some trees with your buddy, that's cool. That's good. I don't need another dumb shootout.
That's the problem. Like, after Bert's wrote his review and I read it, I went to him and I was like, my problem with the game is everything kind of ends in a shootout. And that's especially something, you brought up an example where it doesn't happen, but like in the later stages of the game, the mid chunk of that game, there's a lot of that where it's just like, oh, that was a cool mission. And then it's like, but wait, now there's a shootout.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, they're all kind of the same. That was like my big thing. Like, it wasn't like how slow the game was. It was just like it didn't feel like it could get away with doing missions like that where they just kind of ended without significant action. And too many ended that way. In the last part of the game, they do slow down and take some real chances in like the epilogues.
Oh, good.
I wish they would have done that more because they had some really nice cutting points in some of the missions that just had like firefights tacked on.
Yeah.
I found a lot of, like, even in the early game, though, there's a lot of missions where it's like, I'm going to go fishing. And then,
yes, that's a great one. You're right.
Yeah, and those are great because what I like about it is, maybe other games can do this too, is like at the end of the fishing, there's like, I'm going to go back to camp. Do you want to come with me or are you going to hang out here? You're given a choice. Like, if you're into it, or you can just leave.
Yeah, for sure. But a lot of that shooting, I mean, somebody was talking about the lack of progression on last week's episode with Red Dead 2, but it just feels like, all right, I'm going to use these same guns. I'm going to hide behind cover, pop up, shoot the gun. It feels like the bonus stage in Sunset Riders where people are just like popping up from behind barrels. Like, okay, here we go. Especially with like the heavy auto aim assist where I'm just constantly like, all right, I'll just aim this and it'll be right on their head over and over and over again. Great game, but
yeah, and I think it is a little bit of a step down from like Grand Theft Auto 5. I think they had some, even the other Grand Theft Autos had some really great mission designs that broke the mold, or even just kind of mess with the mechanics. Like as you're driving and you having someone like grabbing the wheel, that's like someone you have in the driver or the passenger seat. Like that stuff's brilliant. This one was a little bit more kind of streamlined. But like I said, toward the end, in those epilogues, they really do some cool stuff.
Sure. Dan, you gonna die?
I'm trying not to.
Okay. Brent Woodruff writes in and says, what is up with Rockstar's wishy-washy position on using real locations in some cases and not in others? They mentioned New York. They mentioned California. I think I even heard Pennsylvania and Arizona at one point. But instead of us traveling in Louisiana and the surrounding states, we're in Lemoyne and West Elizabeth, etc. Have any of you spoken with them about this on a cover strip or anything? Do you understand why it's back and forth? Dang it, Dan. Do you want to get some water? Go get some water.
Should be okay. Should be okay.
You sure? Yeah. You look like you're about to pass out.
I don't know.
Okay. This is frustrating. Because like the first time they mentioned New York in the game, I was like, what? Just say Liberty City. I like the idea that it's in the same world. Why shy away from that?
I guess it's not, though, right?
Well, it's confusing because there's a location in GTA 5 called Strawberry.
Oh, okay.
You know, and then there's also, wasn't there weird stuff where like in GTA 5 online, you could play as like a great-great-grandson
of John Marston.
Yeah.
You could use that as like your ancestor.
Yeah, that was like right out of the gates. They had that. Yeah.
I hate this soft overlap of canon. Lean into that stuff. I think that's fun. Like call it San Fierro or something in Red Dead. I think that's great.
It's the same problem I have with like Star Wars, where it's like, it's like somewhere completely different in the galaxy, but then there's like the Falcon, and you're like, wait a minute.
Sure.
I know what that is. Or Bumblebee in Transformers. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How are you named Bumblebee on Cybertron?
Well, yeah. Turns out all fictional stories are stupid.
And you speak in English. You're a dang robot.
Come on, you dang robot. Cork, this one's just for you.
Uh-oh.
Adam from Connecticut. Do you prefer when loading screens prompt you to press a button when they're finished loading or ones that go straight to the game?
Oh, I like it when they go straight to the game.
There we go. Thomas from New York City says, hey, folks.
Hi.
With Red Dead 2 out of the way, let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077.
You got me there.
This is
You
the
almost
next
had me.
wave. Yep. No
Thought
way
it was
out.
another Red Dead.
Nope.
All right.
We're close, though. Is it reasonable to assume that Microsoft will release a new console before PlayStation in 2020? I think so. I think they'll be a year ahead of them.
No.
I think we're on a collision course. Same
time?
frame. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, hear them out here. Is it also reasonable to assume that Cyberpunk will release close enough to that window that they would put out a version for next gen? Yes, I think so. Therefore, would it be reasonable to assume that people have the opportunity to buy Cyberpunk on Microsoft's next-gen console earlier than PlayStation?
Sir, I'm not under trial.
Yeah, there's
I just want to remind
a
you.
lot of assumptions being made.
I like this assumption, though. I think,
May it please the court.
if in theory, right, next console's around 2020, and Microsoft is probably going to want to beat PlayStation out of the gate, that'll be a good opportunity for them. Cyberpunk's around that window. Could that happen where it's like if you want to play the next-gen version of Cyberpunk, only on Microsoft?
No. I don't see
You're
it
saying
happening.
Okay.
I just don't see
I mean,
that
if
happening.
someone's out first and Cyberpunk's already out, yes, like that could conceivably happen. And I think that happened with like, what was it? Tomb Raider, the Tomb Raider reboot, the first one, they brought it to, it was like right at the end of generation, then they brought it over with
They also asked
hair.
that question. You have other examples. I think of like King Kong, right? Where it's like, you can play it on 360 or you can play the PS2 or GameCube version, I guess.
Gun, remember that one?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Or like Madden, I guess, is always an example and stuff. But anyways, yeah, they're wondering if that could put a dent in PS5 sales.
I don't think so. The mind share is there right now, like, and especially if it's in that same window.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And the game's already out on PS4. Like, I don't think it'll
also,
put that much of a dent.
There's this magical system called a PC where I bet Cyberpunk's really going to look wonderful.
I bet it will look kind of nice there.
Yeah, people should look into those, man.
Cool.
Thomas from New York City also just asked, bonus question, who's going to win the next console war?
Who's going to win the next console war?
Yeah.
Well, let's get our crystal ball here.
I bet I can see Microsoft taking it.
Really?
Google.
Google's taking
There
it,
you
says
go.
Dan.
How about
There we
that?
go.
Wow.
Kellogg's.
The
You just don't know about it
gamers.
yet?
Hang on, what'd you say, big boy?
The gamers.
Kellogg's.
Kellogg's.
That's the best one we've
It's
had.
going to be sweet.
Yeah.
Cereal
Oh,
box.
get out of here.
You just put the
Sorry.
plug it right, controller right in your cereal bowl in the morning.
Lucio's.
Trent Foreman. Ooh, we got to get those Lucios in here for
Yeah, let's
cereal
get-
to
Yeah.
review.
Let's get a few boxes. They're pretty good.
The person
You've
at
eaten them?
Blizzard
Yeah, I
said they
tried
were
them there,
delicious.
Are they like
They're pretty
Apple
good.
Jacks?
I wouldn't call them like there's a little bit of Apple Jacks. There's like it's like 3 different undiscernible cereals that you can't like quite tell. You'll like it.
I'm going with Apple Jacks. Trent Foreman writes in from Wheatfield, Indiana, and says, hello, crew. So the Smash Brothers hype is in full gear for me right now. I was pretty happy after the last Smash Direct. I'm happy Incineroar made the roster, and I find Piranha Plant's inclusion hilarious. But the thing that made me interested was the announcement that the 5 more DLC fighters are going to be on the way. Now, I like speculation as much as the next guy, and I had fun deciding who I'd personally want those 5 characters to be. They're going with Lyn from Fire Emblem, Crash Bandicoot, possible, Kath from Legend of Zelda, Zale from The Last Story, deep cut, and oh boy, and then Pokemon Trainer with Gen 2 Pokemon. So Chikorita, Quilava, and Feraligatr. That's a fun idea. Who do you guys want as the 5?
I want an Undertale character. I don't care who. Probably Sans.
Okay. That'd be tough, but okay.
I don't care. I want Solaire. It's who I want, not
Okay.
who's there.
All right. Solaire is some Dark Souls thing?
Dark Souls, right? They already have the amiibo, so it's not too
Right.
far of a stretch.
That's
I
true.
picked an easy one.
All right.
I
That's
could have
good.
gone for somebody else.
Also, Namco right there, developing the game.
Yeah, okay. That's right.
I'm just saying. Okay, Dan, that got a weird reaction from you. Okay, so those 2.
I'm happy after those 2.
Okay, just for a little setup here, Sakurai tweeted yesterday saying...
Only Nintendo, right?
Yeah, saying Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's DLC lineup is now complete. This time, the selection was made entirely by Nintendo. I decide if we can create a fighter based on their selection, then come up with a plan. It's great to dream about your favorite character joining the battle, and I appreciate your passion. But shut up, Internet. No. But please try to stay on topic when replying to tweets and refrain from flooding us and other users with requests. Okay.
Okay, so only Nintendo franchises.
Not necessarily. He says the selection was made by them, which
but
I think means
that assumes
I think
the
it does
dev
too.
teams,
Yeah.
their games,
I think
their
so.
characters.
I think so.
Sounds safe.
Is Skull Kid a assist trophy?
Yes.
So he won't be a
can't
character
be one.
then. You got to think about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
if it's
a
an
trophy,
assist
it can't be
trophy,
one.
it can't be.
I don't know what
character
Skull
then.
Kid's moves would be.
Just
Play that
shaking.
flute.
He throws Deku nuts.
Yeah. I guess they already have, like, the moon coming in and crashing in, so it couldn't be anything cool like CPU buddy of having
Maybe
the moon.
someone else from Animal Crossing.
They're at 2. I feel like that.
that's a lot.
They got to get Nook in there.
Well, he's an assist trophy.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
It can't be.
Yeah.
That's right.
Along with his dumbass kids. Piece of ass children. Timmy and Tommy.
There's one ARMS character as an assist trophy,
Yes, and then
Nobody
another
in-
one as a costume for the Miis.
so they could take someone from ARMS.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very likely, right?
We're all very jazzed for that one.
I feel like they're not taking the main character at this point, and they.
Waluigi.
Yeah, again, it's the tricky thing of already being an assist trophy, but they're running relatively low for the Nintendo well. Like they would have to go for some deep cuts or something. I was thinking Paper Mario, I think could work. Just focus on like the hammer attacks and stuff. I think there'd be enough unique gameplay that Paper Mario is doable.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball stuff if they go outside of Nintendo.
right.
If they push it, Goku would be so fun.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah. I could see Master Hand being the final character.
Which one? I saw thousands of them in the sky
The
now.
one he was like fourth from the left.
Oh.
Yeah, he was really cool. Obviously, people want the Rhythm Heaven kids, the Together Now kids.
Oh, yes, of course.
That would be a fun little combo
Yeah.
thing. I'm sure it's going to be something like here's Paulina or something. Just Nintendo staple, old school. What else we got?
The professor from like Gyromite.
They're gonna dig so deep. They're gonna be like, remember that one character from Super
Yeah.
Mario RPG that nobody knows? He's here.
Those wireframe character models that like you play some of the weird
Oh,
modes.
yeah. That would be
Generic
fun.
boy from Star Tropics.
Hey,
That'd be fun.
actually, yeah, Star Tropics dude would be amazing.
Actually, that's the best way I've ever heard.
That's great. Let's get him in there.
Yeah.
He's got built-in attacks. That's
Tyler
great.
from Austin writes in and he says he wants the Elite Beat agents, which is fun, like a
that'd be
Pokemon
good.
trainer
Yeah.
style. EBA.
Who do you
I want
want?
the hang on real quick before you, Cork. I want the rotating stick from Kuru Kurin. You can have like different attachments on it, like the weird boxing glove and stuff.
That'd be
Yeah,
really
that was
cool.
a fun
Just
game.
a freaky little bird in the
Yeah.
ship.
Something I've been thinking about, and I don't know how appropriate this would be. But no, it's
He's been
not
thinking about it a lot.
inappropriate. I've been looking at that Game Before Recovered with Ghostbusters logo. What if the ghost for the Ghostbusters, so we could see what his legs look like?
Oh wow.
Does he have two like ghost legs, or is it like
they
does
do.
he trail off in a?
It has ghost legs.
It does have ghost
There's
legs.
other logos where that thing has legs.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know that in the original version of the Ghostbusters reboot, that was going to be like the final boss of the film? It was going to be that ghost.
Really?
I believe that was the leak, right?
Yeah, that was the leak.
Yeah.
That would have been.
They should have done that.
Instead, they went with Uncle Sam with tall legs or something. Remember how weird that movie gets?
Yeah,
at the end? It's like
yeah.
a weird action scene where they're like licking the guns
I
and
was
stuff.
pretty checked out at that point, but it did get weird.
Yeah, the problem with like thinking of all the characters you'd like is they've done such a good job with the assist trophies that they've kind of
Yes.
cannibalized a lot of the characters
Yep.
inadvertently. Like I think like I saw a screenshot of like a character like it was a Mii fighter wearing like Chibi Robo armor kind of a thing. So it's like, well, there goes that dream. Thanks a lot, Nintendo.
Well, I guess life isn't worth living no more.
What was the one?
Robo.
What was the one the community wanted? The Grinch.
The
Well,
yeah, the
that
Grinch.
was
What was
connected.
that all about?
It was
was
because
this-
there was this image, okay, that everybody just like de-blurred or whatever. They're like, this is the Grinch. This is
If you
Gino?
ever
Well-
see a blurry image on the internet,
It's not real. It came from like this weird leak that was coming from French Illumination company that was making the Grinch movie, and so it all got
it got
messed up.
super weird.
Yeah, people were really into that for a little while. But anyways, Aaron Bivens from St. Augustine, Florida says, "Hey, hope everyone has recovered after Extra Life." Yes, thank you. So on November 3rd, League of Legends released an official K-pop music video.
It's amazing. I've watched it like 30 times.
Featuring a number of characters from the game sporting new skins. The video itself is amazingly high quality, and the song is very well done, snagging over 14 million views in 3 days. Well, I don't play League of Legends at all. I have to say I really like the song and have contributed to a number of those views. This also reminded me of the Mecha Storm cinematic done by Blizzard for some Heroes of the Storm skins. And while it features some good animation and music, it has around like 1 million views. What do you think of all these high-quality trailers done for free-to-play games? Do you think it will be a continuing trend or some weirdly successful one-offs? Will we start seeing movies based on new MOBA skins?
So League of Legends has been doing this forever. Like
really?
I think the first time they did a music video for a new thing was like with Jinx, when Jinx the character came out. And that was a big deal. And she had her own song, and they do songs in different styles. Like they got like a metal song, and then they've got like some more like, sort of, I forget, like a classic rock / emo kind of thing for another character. And then like they have this one. This one is just visually very impressive. Like as an animation geek like you are, Hanson, like you really like
I did watch it. Yeah, it was really good actually.
It's really, really great presentation values. And again, this isn't a new thing, like moving into more transmedia to sort of promote the game from outside the game and tie it in with skins and stuff. I mean, I don't play League much anymore at all. Like I go back for like a game every few months or something, but if those skins are like they are in that video, I might get one. Heck, why not?
I love this email because I love it's a phenomenon that I never really paid attention to. They have music videos tied to skins. Also, Dan, what is up with those? I keep seeing like these League of Legends anime trailers popping up in my YouTube feed and stuff. What is going on there? They're making an anime based on like the esports players of League of Legends?
Not that I know of. I haven't heard anything about that.
Oh, I think that's what's going on.
Clash Royale has its own cartoon.
Yep.
Oh,
like
really?
they just short film
and you can watch it,
short episodes on YouTube,
and they push it on the game, so you watch them. You can even watch them inside the game.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of like what Blizzard does with Overwatch, but at a higher frequency.
Right. And the fact that you still can't watch the Overwatch shorts from within
the
game,
I know,
that's weird. Mind-boggling.
If they had an event, Cork, where they were showing all the Overwatch cinematics in a movie theater that was like 13 miles away from your house, would you go to it? Your kids couldn't come.
13 miles.
I would knock them on the floor on my way. I wouldn't even grab my coat. I would say, I get to see these things again in a movie theater 13 miles away.
I like that kind of stuff. I want to see more weird novelty things in movie theaters. I do too. Like that.
I want them to make an actual movie. Wouldn't that be amazing? I know they can't realistically.
Hey, Dan, we have a video interview with the cinematics lead coming up later in the month talking about why they don't make their own MFing movie.
Well, I better watch that one.
Yeah. Were you not in the room when that happened?
I was not. The room was quite small, as you recall. There was not space for everyone.
That's correct,
Judge. The answer is we don't know what the story is in this thing, if we're being honest. It's just a series of unrelated vignettes.
There is a weird, like the story team at Blizzard is in a completely separate building, and there is a weird dichotomy that happened where like talking to everybody else at Blizzard, it's like, hey, gameplay first. That's Blizzard's motto. And then talking to like the story people, it's like, story first. You know, like that's basically the sentiment. It's like, this is the weird divide that I don't think you guys, I understand they know how to make games and combine that, but it's just like a funny disconnect of like, this building over here seems to think this stuff is very important. Everybody else is like, yeah, but... It's funny, Dan.
I didn't get that vibe, but okay. Yeah.
Oh, it was a vibe.
It was a vibe, Jerry.
Something we didn't talk about was the cool twist of a new Heroes of the Storm character being an original character.
Correct. For the first time, and I did ask them about that at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
They said this. I'm like, are you going to keep doing this? This was just right now. They just think it's a one-off. Like
I never even considered that. Yeah. That's such a fun idea.
I'm like, you're going to bring her to other games? They're like, no.
Well, could it be like the tease of a new IP years and years from now?
Oh man, no, because she is part of the Heroes IP. Like, so right, Heroes doesn't have its own characters, right? But they have those battlegrounds. She comes from the Ravenlorn battleground. Like she's the Ravenlorn's daughter. So like, this whole map that has a thing around it. One of the more popular classic maps where you're like running around with the Ravenlord's curse bestowing it on people.
Yeah.
This character comes from that, like the concept of that Ravenlord and this map. So it's not like.
She can't easily be plucked out.
Correct.
So, Tack, within the next year, would you say...
An Overwatch skin, probably. Yeah.
No? I'm going to be far less ambitious.
Okay.
Within the next year, will you be able to use a spray in Overwatch that has some reference to that character specifically?
A spray?
A spray. Do you think they will do that?
This is the spray bet.
Spray anything. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, we are in agreement. I'm glad we had this conversation. Perfect.
On air.
Carry on.
Here's how we carry on. Connor H. from Manchester, Connecticut. says, NPR posted an article about the calming effect Tetris has on people. Cork, you know anything about this?
I believe that's called the Tetris. No, it's not
Okay. It is. Essentially, not really. Essentially, research from UC Riverside suggests that, this is a quote, suggests that Tetris can ease us through periods of anxiety by getting us to a blissfully engrossed mental state that psychologists call flow. And the state of flow is the one where you're completely absorbed or engaged in some kind of activity where you lose your self-awareness and time is just flying by. This article states that other absorbing games can also have the same effect. What games get you into this state of flow?
SSX used to do that. I like just that sensation when you got pretty good at it, where you just knew what you could and couldn't do it on the board.
I like the idea of you being in this zen state of flow in like a level like Tokyo Megaplex, where it's just
that's
like
the level that I played almost exclusively.
Oh, really? It was just a giant pinball machine?
Yeah, I loved it.
Everybody's screaming at you, Kaori going nuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was it. And then also, like, when I spent a lot of time with Tony Hawk, you would have like a similar thing where you're just like, you know what to do and how to do it and how to get anywhere on the level. And I just have lost that completely.
That's a slightly different kind. That's not like relaxing because you're like on edge the whole time. And mine, when I read that question, was Geometry Wars, where you get into that zone, but it's not like relaxing or you know like putting you in a different mind state. It's just like high level of intensity, but you're kind of owning the game at that point. Like you feel like you can't be taken down.
Right.
I did find Tony Hawk to be relaxing though, like in a certain way. Again, I have not been that good at a Tony Hawk game since, but like on Dreamcast, I played a lot of it.
But there's still, it's not like you can completely relax because you have to balance, execute your spins, you know, like.
Your rebuttal, sir?
No, I was the fucking best in the world. Activision said you win.
Yeah, there you go.
I had all the cheats active.
There's a like Amplitude does this for me. Bejeweled does this for me big time.
Oh, Bejeweled for sure.
Luminous a little bit.
Okay.
Like I'm getting a zone in that one.
Yeah. I was telling Cork about this. Mark McDonald, when they were here talking about Tetris Effect, he was just flabbergasted that I hadn't seen this documentary called Ecstasy of Order, which the easy pitch is it's the King of Kong, but for Tetris. I rented it's like $2 on YouTube or whatever. It's really, really good. It's like from 2012, and if you're looking forward to Tetris Effect specifically, watch this. It's so much fun because it's about like gathering people together for the first ever Tetris World Championship. Like it had never really been held, and so there's this incredible sequence. I just loved it, where the guy is going around to like who has all the high scores according to Twin Galaxies and stuff, and gathering everybody together. But because there's never been a world championship for Tetris at this point, everybody's play styles for like the top players in the world are just completely different. Everybody has like their own unique twist, where like one player is like, what are you talking about? You can rotate the pieces another direction? It's like, what? You've been playing this for 20 years and you have no idea? And then some people are like, oh no, you don't keep a clean stack. You make it messy as hell. Or like, oh, I keep my well on the left side compared to the right side. Like everybody has their own unique flavor. And it's such a fun idea then to like have this melding of ideas of like, wait, how are you playing this old crappy game? Or the best
crappy?
game? I mean, the
Get
best game ever.
No.
I find it very difficult to believe that somebody who wasn't rotating blocks is a high scorer.
She was. Her name's like Dana. She's like one of the best players in the world.
I have to see this. I'm mind-boggled.
She's just rotating it one direction.
Yes.
Not the other.
Yes. Yeah. Yes,
oh,
for sure.
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, if you weren't rotating at all, that would be what the hell?
There is
impossible.
apparently there's like a version of competition. They showed it where that's the twist is you can't twist it.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So it's like how long can you go without rotating a single piece,
Yeah.
which is a fun idea. It's very good, you guys. What?
I don't know.
I'm checking it out.
It was funny.
Dan,
I am. I
Ecstasy
know
of
what I'm
Order.
watching tonight.
Okay. It's also a surprisingly good name. And the editing, there's a couple things I'm not crazy about, but content-wise, it's fun. Glenn Hawthorne from Belfast, Northern Ireland, God's Country Pub. Cork, you're from here, aren't you?
God's Country.
Anyways, hi, Ben, and the Informers of Game. Hello. They have an odd way of speaking in Ireland. Anyways, he says, with Game of the Year discussions coming up, and most likely the main talk will be Spider-Man, God of War, Red Dead. I think you're right. Taking these out of the equation, what is everybody's Game of the Year? For me, it was Yakuza 6, given that it was a perfect send-off to Kiryu after playing the series for 12 years.
So we're removing all this.
Remove the good games. What do you do then?
Dead Cells, Call of Duty Blackout.
Oh, okay. No, it's not listed. We're going, what is the next runner-up right now?
Probably Dead Cells.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's, Andy earlier in the episode brought up like Diablo being his new travel game. Like Dead Cells on Switch is just like, anytime I'm on a plane, it's just like that trips over in no time flat. It's so good.
Cork, what do you think?
Overwatch.
Oh, fun.
I could pick an old game too, but
Game as a service.
True.
Dan, come on, there's one answer, and I think we're on the same page.
Black Ops.
Yes, Black Ops.
I play Blackout every night.
Here's a question for you. To Jeff Cork's point of Overwatch, like, do the awards need to change from like Game of the Year to New Game of the Year, and then
do we have a Game of Service
ongoing?
For the year?
We do, but
I think we
like,
should.
Should both be held in the same?
I like that mixing and matching.
Weight though.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's just whatever game you happen to enjoy the most this year. I love that. Like, Giant Bomb in their big roundup, they have old game, the best old game of 2018 or something, and I always like that category because it's like, oh, we really got into Windjammers this year, so let's give it an award here. It's just some weird thing happens culturally, and you find yourself playing a game a lot. That's fun.
Yeah, but like Overwatch and other game service wouldn't be some weird thing culturally.
Right.
Like this,
that would be a mark of just being supported the hell out of. Yeah,
because like you think about like the multiplayer landscape outside of like Black Ops 4, you have like Rainbow Six, Overwatch, a lot of legacy games that
even League and
got
Dota.
even better this year.
Yeah.
Like pretty soon your awards are just going to be like games that released 10 years ago because they just keep getting better and better.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. You figure it out, Renner.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Oh boy.
Oh no.
This Belgian lad. Dan, how do you say that name?
Wouter?
I know you're coughing to him, but not here, not now.
Woter?
Wooter.
It's not Wooter.
Wooter.
W-O-U-T-E-R.
There's no umlaut in there.
Wooter Sweetens writes in, hello, this is Wooter from Belgium. Hello. When The Witcher 3 came out, it was hailed as the new golden standard for open world games between dialogue, animation, and quality side quests revolutionized the genre. Since then, games like Horizon Zero Dawn, Breath of the Wild, Spider-Man, AC Odyssey, Red Dead 2 have come out. Question is, what game would you currently consider to be the gold standard of open world games? Is it still The Witcher 3?
I haven't played Red Dead yet, so...
I like Red Dead.
You think Red Dead takes it from Witcher?
Yeah.
I think they're two different things to compare. Like the world itself being realized, Red Dead, absolutely. The Witcher in terms of like
quest design.
Yeah, I think that is still, kind of the gold standard for questing. So it's difficult. That's hard to say, but yeah, it depends on what you want from it, I guess.
Yeah, and then structure. Personally, I consider Breath of the Wild, but that's like. Not really questing, but just structured.
I like how open it is. Yeah,
that's all I want. Every game should do that, no matter what. Ken Pittman says, hello, crew. One of my favorite horror franchises is The Thing. Correct. It's the best. Both for its story and the fact that the 1982 movie, the game sequel, and the prequel all share the same title of The Thing. That's true. Also, don't forget, God, did the movie from the 50s? Is that
The
also
Thing
called
from
The
Outer
Thing?
Space.
Is it called that? Okay. Also, you should watch that. If you haven't watched that, it holds up surprisingly well. It's fun. It's a terrible naming system and often confusing when I want to talk about it with others. But beyond that, the Thing game was a fun game that gave me more to enjoy from that world. My question for the GI crew is, what are some great video games that served as either a prequel or a sequel to another story format? From another format. I always have The Thing and Wolf Among Us in my mind since it's a prequel to Fables, but can you think of any other stuff?
I like this question a lot.
It's a good question. It's a tricky one to answer.
Good answers,
I'm with Cork on that one.
The Thing video game was interesting in a couple ways. Like it had the audio tapes that McCready records in The Thing, which I always thought was really cool. And then correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe at the end of the film, like you can go to that location in the game, and in the game only Childs is there with like the whiskey, and so McCready's not there, and so it's subtly implied that maybe. I know it doesn't make sense, but maybe towards the end he became The Thing, or he just wandered off after Childs died. Like, who knows? But I love that idea.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's only one answer here, and it's the sequel to Lost World Jurassic Park called Jurassic Park Trespasser.
Oh, man, just brilliant.
Where you go to Site B, and the thing that I love about this is you go to Site B, and you find out that this is like years after Lost World or something. You find that like John Hammond had like built his entire little town there. And so you find this abandoned town where John Hammond like declared himself the mayor, and they have like signs saying like, come on down to John Hammond's waffle party happening every Saturday at 8 a.m. on Site B. It's just like such a weird idea that like he works on the other island and then just has a weird little cult.
It's a vacation house.
I guess so. It's so weird.
Kind of like you enjoying The Thing for its connection. I have similar thoughts about the 24 video game.
Oh, weird.
Lost via Domus for like taking you to new locations on the island that you hadn't seen at the peak of that show's run.
Yeah.
And then Enter the Matrix as well for like, I know people don't like that, but I think that's better than the 2 sequels that came out to the movies.
You know,
but that just kind of expanding that lore a little bit too. I think they all achieved that in their own ways, but maybe weren't like the best games afterwards, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess I like the set before or after so much more than I remember the Toy Story 3 video game. The toy box is great, but that story I thought was dumb where it's like, don't you want to know how they got Andy's cell phone into the toy chest and like inserting these nonsense missions of like, no, I never wondered that. I don't need to know that part of the story of Toy Story 3. Right, Jeff Korg?
It seems like something that you would absolutely want to know.
I gotta know what the phone.
I think you called the opening cinematic of Lost World Trespasser the most exciting thing ever created.
I'm sure I called it the face of God or something. That replay was so funny. I'm so happy Jason Astraker got the tech working because that was such a nightmare to get the thing up and running. Doug from Burlington, Vermont wrote in, says, hello, company. What is one futuristic product or piece of technology that you thought would exist by the time you were an adult, but instead had your dreams crushed in reality? For me, it's definitely the hovercraft. I was convinced my first car would be a hovercraft. Instead, it was just a rusted 1996 baby blue Ford Explorer.
Artificial pancreas.
Mine was
very specific, Dan.
Very specific.
Is it coming?
I hope so.
I'll sell you one.
All right, I'll take it.
All right.
Along the same lines as the hovercraft, the hoverboard from Back to the Future 2. I believed it when I saw it on the big screen. It's like, oh, that's got to be like real. Like that's got to be coming soon.
But how do we not have that yet?
Can't wait for 2015.
Kyle about that I was reading like Twitter a long time ago, and there was like a news story about like this rapper had gotten into an altercation with airport security for using a hoverboard in the airport terminal. And I thought for probably too long, like, what the hell? They actually have hoverboards now? What?
Yeah, you can't call everything a hoverboard.
Yeah, and then I looked at it, and it's like, there cannot be something that hovers any less than something that has 2 wheels. Like, the whole purpose of wheels is not to hover.
Yeah.
It was very disappointing. I thought they'd finally cracked it.
Such garbage.
A rapper at an airport.
It's interesting you think of hoverboards. I remember I was a huge fan of the Today Show growing up. I'd watch it every single morning with my mama. And I remember one time they had this inventor on, and he said, next week, I'm going to reveal an invention that's going to make me richer than Henry Ford in a year. And it was like, what? He's like, this is no joke. Like, the funding, this thing is happening. And I don't know if I've ever been so excited in my life. I was like, I need to know. This is
like that opening cinematic of Jurassic Park.
It was up there, heart racing. And then he comes on next week and he's like, I call it the Segway.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to drive it off a cliff or whatever he did. Didn't he like jump off a cliff on the Segway and die?
No.
I think he did.
Didn't die. He was injured. What? I think it was a different dude, though. There's like a co-inventor.
Right. I really think that happened. But I always think, too, of also on the news when I was a kid, and because I was a huge Jurassic Park fan, I was like, well, this is it. This is going to be the most amazing thing ever. Is they're like, we think we're about 5 years away from cloning the woolly mammoth.
No, they are. They totally are.
They've been saying that for 25 years.
They've probably already cloned the woolly mammoth.
No,
they've cloned humans.
There's new research on this. They think at this point, in the next 10 years, I think they said they will be roaming the wilds.
I will never.
Roaming the wilds?
Reiner, it has been 25 years of looking forward to this goddamn
roaming
woolly
the wilds?
mammoth.
Yeah, they've created artificial wombs now, and they're raising like cloned sheep in these things.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they have them now for mammoth-sized or elephant-sized.
I'm going to stick my head in one until there's actually a woolly mammoth because I'm sick of this tease happening.
I think there's an asterisk to that story, though, because it like originates from Russia, and you can never trust like how much of this is legit versus just like a very long.
We love our Russian listeners, by the way. We don't mean any disrespect.
I think we can clone them. I don't know if they're going to be roaming the wilds anytime soon.
Reiner, I will not believe this until you drive one into the office.
I will be riding one.
Yes.
You drive a woolly mammoth? Is that the correct verb?
Drive them crazy.
I will give up all of my savings for a chance to ride one of those suckers.
Oh, they'd smell so bad.
I don't
just
care.
How much poop is being
We don't know.
We
don't know how they
I
smell.
would just be yelling, I'm on a dinosaur the whole time.
Yeah, that's scientifically
the most
accurate.
boring one. It's a hairy elephant.
Also, I remember being a kid and my mind being lit on fire again because they're talking about like computers of the future. And they said something, correct me if I'm wrong, world, but they said some crazy stuff about like, oh, in the future, computers might be fueled by the neurons are some sort of crazy tech pulled from salmon. Because salmon have some magical
you didn't hear this.
quality, and they're like, we could use them to power computers in the future, and computers would be 1,000 times faster.
Salmon-powered computers?
Yeah, the smartest animals.
No.
There's something about like a salmon's brain or sperm or something that was going to make like,
wow, I don't know where this is going.
Amazing.
Another thing, aliens.
Right.
Proof of aliens out there. There was just that story on those Harvard professors that thought that that weird cigar-shaped
alien meteor
that accelerated out of our galaxy. And they're like, that was probably an alien probe.
I don't understand all those pictures. They need to make those clear that those are like artists' take on it. Because they say, hey, we found this alien ship. And then they show a picture of it and it's like a sticky rock.
But what do you think it's going to look like?
I'm sure it's going to look something like that. That's the level of freaky alien stuff that I don't want to be able to comprehend.
Yeah, they were saying like based on like the data they got that they thought they had like a solar sail on it.
Yeah,
like Count Dooku's ship.
Oh,
we've made the connection. The Dooku connection.
Coming to say hello.
As he does.
Also, if I put a gun to your head, Antag,
yes,
and said, "Will you ever go to space someday?"
Well, I personally probably not.
Did everybody think they were going to space someday, and now we've just quietly all resigned that it's not?
I saw Total Recall, and I was like, I'll go to Mars.
I can't imagine a more boring place to go. If you're being serious.
Yeah.
I think future space will be cool once we get it to be like all sci-fi. When we have like
once we get my
the gambling
planet,
the shopping planet, and the paradise planet, and all that stuff. But I think that's a little bit.
I'm interested.
Like waterfalls and.
Well, there's like the only place you can get like Space Burger. Like In-N-Out like has a new recipe and it's only on Mars. Yeah. Then it's not.
I'm thinking of that planet from like Valerian or whatever. What is that movie called?
No one's seen Valerian in the City of a Thousand Planets. No one.
The Valerian trailer.
I thought the movie was okay. All right. Okay to good, actually.
I'm okay to good. Randolph Carter from Saxe, Texas. You bet, baby. Says, hello, crew of the best podcast. Oh, thanks.
There it is. I know why this email got picked.
Yeah. I've always been curious how real life at the Game Informer office operates.
Oh, God.
Real life compared to this podcast. Our own fantasy
You're looking
planet.
at it. You're looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Few questions, if you please. Is everyone we see on the show a full-time employee?
Yes.
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 Except the interns.
Are we just supposed to shout these out, or?
Yes. When not on assignment, is it pretty much a 9 to 5, Monday, Friday affair?
Yes.
10 to 6, but yes.
Or, well, I mean, there's different shifts, right? Like we have the morning
true.
shift and we have the people getting out of bed.
And on assignment is kind of vague, like review game time, depending on situation.
Are there cubicles, or does everyone have their own office?
Cubicles and offices.
Dan Tack deserves his own office. We should at least put up like a tent wall that separates
tent
you.
wall.
They're not really
kind of sheet
cubicles.
construct.
They're not cubicles.
It's more of an open space. People have a lot of room.
We did a tour.
It's not quite an open office plan, but it's pretty.
But we did a tour during Extra Life a couple years ago, and that's standalone on YouTube. If you search Game Informer Office Tour, you can see everything. You'll be floored. Are there ever meetings with the entire staff? How often?
Yes.
Once a month.
The entire staff?
Well,
production.
Oh, entire staff. Okay.
There's a bunch
advertising.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Maybe once a year, if that. Maybe
Entire?
once every couple of years.
I think I've been here 8 years. I think I've been in a meeting with the entire staff. In theory,
once,
twice, maybe.
So once every 4 years.
Yeah,
that's
let's
a good
say
metric.
that. Do staff ever go out to lunch together?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes, sometimes. I bring a salad.
It is stinky.
It is.
Is there a break room? Does water cooler talk happen there?
Yes and yes.
Yeah. It's normally, I don't know.
Water cooler talk doesn't really happen there so much as anywhere, really. But
Yeah, there's a fair amount there. I was talking to Andy about chili for way too long the other day in the break room.
Chili.
That's what happens there. Andy's a big chili fan, turns out.
Place or food?
Food. Yeah, Andy has a lot of thoughts on chilies too.
Yeah, these apps are great, by the way.
Is parking a problem? No, we have a parking building. Although they destroyed Paradise and built a parking lot.
Right.
And they built like a condo that we have to park in. We have to drive our car into it. I hope this has been enlightening. Cork, what questions do you have about the Game Informer office?
What questions do I have?
Yeah.
There was not any really spicy ones in there.
No.
Are all the chairs nice, or are there some that are really bad and should be burned?
90% are bad.
Yeah,
they start nice for about a month. I think that's like
the
metric there. And then they get gross.
Reeves, Leo, Cork, myself, Kyle, and
Cereal.
And Cereal all have standing desks.
Yes.
So we're not allowed to have chairs.
It's true.
They can't afford them. Cody writes in and says, "Hi, Cody from Vancouver, Washington here. I know how much all of you like party games. So try this one on for size."
Email of the week right here.
Yeah,
what happens?
I built a random generator that will give you one of 500 pre-selected games at random and one of 45 genres, also at random. It's up to each person on the panel to give their best elevator pitch. Go to http://butasa.duh.
You don't have to.
Wait. Dang it, Dan. I didn't realize this until now. So it's butsa.thebabywasthere.com.
Of course it is.
And that's D-U-H. Okay, Jill in the booth, if you pull up the browser on that computer, it should be up. I'll run in there and help you real quick.
The baby was there.
Do you want to explain what that means, Dan?
So the baby was there is actually me and Hanson were playing. You can pull this up on YouTube. We were showing off the split screen play for Call of Duty Black Ops Blackout on console, and we were in one of the zombie areas where you can hear the baby. And Hanson let that quip go after a rather bad round. He's like, "The baby was there," and that has now been memeified.
We got it, guys. We locked in the meme.
Finally.
Landed it. All right, Jill in the booth. So you have to give a pitch for how this game works. Okay, so Jeff Cork, you want to give Jeff Cork his role by clicking that button there, Jill?
Okay, Jeff Cork. It looks like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, but as a platformer.
But as a platformer.
And the pitch goes something like this.
Okay. It's dark. It's atmospheric. The platformers may or may not be kind of yucky. It's all in your head, or isn't it?
And how much money are you looking for, sir?
How much you got? 10.
Yeah, really. Big ones.
$9.99.
Yeah.
All right. Right this way, sir. And then it opened a door that just falls out of the building like 20 stories.
Just a big boxing glove. Punches you out.
And it takes place between 1 and 2.
Oh,
very nice.
All right, Reiner, serve it up. Here we go, Jill.
Okay, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but as a roguelike.
Wow.
I want that game.
We're all ears.
So, like Jeff's game, it is a 2D side-scrolling action game. And every time you die in combat, you lose all your gear and all your progress, and you have to start over.
How does sailing work, sir?
There is none.
Everything people love about Black Flag.
Wow.
Yeah, you're a pirate. I don't know.
Saved it at the end there.
Yeah, you got the con of the Conway part, right? Isn't that their name?
Yeah.
I mean, roguelike's tough because it's just like you lose everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's
Also-
like the whole thing. Like it's tough and you lose it all.
Come on, random generator. Assassin's Creed roguelike is right there. It's so close.
Yeah.
Just call it that.
It's coming.
All right, Dan Tack,
All right.
serving it up.
Okay, you have Hitman Blood Money as a fighting game.
Oh, whoa.
Blood v money.
Imagine taking out the worst elements of humanity in a brutal brawler where you're going to upgrade constantly by contract killing. Imagine the blood.
Wait, so you're contract killing in like this 1v1?
Contract killing, but they know you're coming and they're ready. And they're ready to fight. Fight today.
And block your moves. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm into it. Jill, I'm ready for my game, please. Turns out every game is interesting.
Okay, you have Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, but
It's a roguelike.
as a text adventure.
Oh,
That's good.
Oh, I would actually play this. You know how, ladies and gentlemen, stealth games sound good in theory, but then it's like, oh, I'm getting caught over and over. Why do they keep seeing me? Well, what if, to fix that, you just had to go in and type, stay hidden over and over again. It says, hey, you're in a room. To the north is a bright room. To the west is a dark room. Go to the west. Stay in the dark.
Stay in the dark.
Just say, stay in the dark at the start of every sentence, and you will have the best stealth experience of your life.
Unscrew light bulb. I don't understand.
green lights.
Yes. Turn on the green lights.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Make that cool sound that his helmet makes.
Yep.
Right. That's the only audio in this text adventure over and over and over again. Reiner, we should play more text adventures on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, do we have to?
Alexa.
Yeah. Alexa, are you on? She's over there.
Alexa, load up Jurassic Park.
Wait, no. Computer. No, it's not. At some point, though, I would like to try and play a good text adventure
I do
game.
too.
All right.
Next time.
Yeah. At some time.
Are we going to do that Skyrim one?
Jill, do you have any feedback for us on this episode of the podcast? Anything you'd like to correct? Anything we've gotten wrong so far?
Oh, I thought I'd be mean and just say everything, but you guys are doing great.
Oh, Jill. Oh, fresh. Jill wrote a feature on Redhead Day this week.
Oh.
I wonder why.
Did you make fun of Kyle in that feature?
I absolutely did. I actually wrote more making fun of Kyle segments, but pulled back a little bit.
Because you didn't want him to cry?
It's a pretty easy thing to do, so I didn't want to.
He'd mop his tears up with his red hair. Email of the week. What do you guys like?
That one.
I like the technology one.
I like that too.
I got way into that one.
This person built this website.
I've got to give him props for that.
Yeah.
It's very good, but I like the tech one too. Cork.
Why don't we just have 2 winners this week?
No. Oh. Although if we're going to give 2 winners, it'd be the Knicks from Atlanta because that's a killer bit. Cork, you got to choose, man.
Oh, boy. I don't know if...
I'm going tech.
You're going tech. The best thing that I could do is, like, trigger a tie, right?
Well, not necessarily.
You could trigger a tie.
No, you could if you go with tech as well, then there's no tie and tech wins.
Right.
I do like the tech question.
Oh, look, Cody, you're a hero. We recommend everybody go to HTTP.
Cody, you won in my mind.
Yeah, //BUTASA.DUH baby was there.
Get roguelike off of there, though, because it's like it's going to be
I would
the
have
same
loved
thing every
roguelike
time.
on mine.
Yeah, but it would have been the same answer as me.
Yeah, but you could be like, there's so much you can do marketing-wise with that. You're like, you only live once. It's all on the line.
It's all, yeah. God, I'm into it. Congratulations, Doug from Burlington, Vermont. We'll ship you out something. No, we're not going to ship you out something. We're going to put your thing on the board. Congratulations, Burlington, Vermont.
How are you going to do that?
What do you mean? Oh, because the Northeast is a little bit packed? Well, that's why we have this little one.
Oh, what?
Anybody in Vermont?
In fact, let's find out some facts about Burlington, Vermont right now. Do you guys know that Burlington was home to Ethan Allen, a folk hero credited by many as the father of Vermont?
Does it have anything to do with the coat factory?
I was going to say.
Ethan Allen's furniture. Also.
Oh, it's one of the first naval battles of the Revolutionary War. It took place on Lake Champlain.
Oh, there we go.
That's cool. I love good naval warfare. Like, I like that. I think it was in the War of 1812. I like that there were there's naval combat in the Great Lakes. I think that's awesome. Dan.
Lake Champlain.
I'm not a big fan of war, but yeah, sure.
Right.
Wow. Only 45 miles from Canada.
There we go. Congratulations, Burlington, Vermont. Hot location. Run, don't walk to Burlington, Vermont.
Actually, I bet there is a lot of cool stuff there.
I bet there's at least 3. But for now, let's learn about Red Dead 2.
I'd love to.
Alongside some developers. Here's this. All right, welcome to the Game Informer Show, everybody. This is a complicated web, but all right, top left, we have Rami Ismail. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hi there. Glad to be here. Excited to talk about this video game.
Yeah, I'm very curious to hear everybody's take on it. Rami, you might know from Ridiculous Fishing, Nuclear Throne. What do you think you're best known for, Rami?
Probably for Nuclear Throne, honestly. I'm a game developer at Vlambeer, one half of the studio were the creators of Super Crate Box, Luftrausers, Ridiculous Fishing, and Nuclear Throne most recently. I travel the world meeting game developers talking video games.
That sounds beautiful. All right, upper right, we have Alex Hutchinson from Typhoon Studios. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing really good. Back to the show. You're on before. We talked about your work on Assassin's Creed 3, Far Cry 4. You're here as the open world expert. I hope you're okay with that.
I didn't know. We should have briefed each other before the show, but that sounds great.
Everybody secretly got their specialty. All right, Ryan Payton, lower left. Welcome, sir, from Camouflage.
Thanks for having me.
Let's see. You're here because you're very likable, and also you worked on Metal Gear Solid 4, and so when it comes to like the art of perfection, we need you to join this conversation.
Yeah, because I made that whole video game by myself.
Yeah, that's how the rumor goes. I do believe. Lower right, Jake Kazdal. Welcome, sir, from 17-Bit.
Howdy. Good morning.
Yeah, good to have you, man.
Good morning, Japan.
Yeah, congratulations on Galaxy coming to Switch and everything, man. Very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, we got more coming soon, so look for some announcements in
All
very
right.
short order.
Very interesting. Okay. Red Dead Redemption 2, you guys. I feel like we've talked about it a lot on this podcast. The industry's talked about it. But it's always just from some dumb journalist perspective of, hey, that horse looks cute. What are you going to do about that? I want to know, like, specifically what you guys see that the rest of the world doesn't see. But maybe to kick things off, how how's everybody's read on the game overall? Is everybody wowed by it, disappointed by it? Just you want to jump in with your take? Maybe Rami, you go first.
I'm a little bit of all of the above, I think. It's both extremely impressive and oddly disappointing and not what I expected and kind of great. And it's a beautiful mess in all the best and worst ways at the same time. It's a fascinating game for the fact that it exists. And so much of it feels like they had a very specific vision going into this and just nobody to tell them whether something was a good or bad idea, and they just did all of it.
Is that just...
It's mesmerizing. I'm not sure it's good, but it's mesmerizing.
Yeah. Is that just the power of the Housers at this point? I mean, they have all the money in the world. No one can tell them no, and so it's like, let's just keep going. Keep plowing down this road.
I think there's a lot of truth in what Rami said, but I think that's also the best part. It's clearly a vision from people who had an idea of what they wanted, and it's what they wanted until it was finished. And so there's part of me, that is very jealous of the opportunity where the budget and the team size and the sheer sort of power behind that machine that gets it done. And therefore I kind of love it. I mean, Red Dead 1 was my favorite. I think it's probably right up there in my favorite games of all time. I think it's magnificent for many reasons. I'm only about halfway through 2, so I can't even do spoilers on this one. But it's for some reason it's not gelling with me as much. I don't know whether that's that it's a place I've been before or other reasons, but I think it's an incredibly impressive achievement.
Yeah, Ryan, where are you at with this thing?
I'm in a weird place with it because I'm not like the biggest fan of Rockstar's games. They just don't seem to like kind of disconnect with me, especially on the GTA side of things. I look at them as an incredible achievement. I play those games because it's just, I can't believe you're doing this on a 360, like what they did with GTA 5. It's like from a technical perspective and scope perspective, it's incredible. But like the humor and like the kind of antisocial nature of it has never really gelled with me. And that's kind of why I respect Red Dead Redemption, the first one, but it still had that kind of like signature, like in quotation marks, like mature humor that is like over the top and like it's more antisocial than it is kind of like thoughtful humor in my opinion, and almost like slapstick in a lot of ways. And so I kind of went into this game like kind of worried because I love the Wild West, right? I love the cowboy fantasy. And so playing this game, especially with the first act, I know we're going to try to avoid spoilers, but the first chapter, from the first minute, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Things are looking really good. This is the type of like kind of mature Deadwood, like not too tongue-in-cheek Rockstar approach. This feels like almost like different guys are behind this game in a lot of ways. I really feel like they've really grown up. And
you should wait for you getting drunk with Lenny sequence, because then.
No, here's the thing. Like I've actually played that. I think it's called like a quiet time. That chapter. Yeah. I loved it. It's like, it's. I don't know. Maybe I'm not explaining it the right way, but I felt like the Undertaker character from the first Red Dead was like really over the top, and like he's like totally on drugs, guys, and he's like wild and crazy, But this one, like they're even like their funny moments, I felt like are they're more Westworld than they are like the Three Amigos, if you know what I mean. And that really speaks to me. I like dark, depressing, serious stuff, right? And so this game, I'm in. It's like the first like Rockstar game in a long time that I'm really, really into it.
Yeah, Jake, what about you? Just to round this off.
I'm pretty blown away by it. I think to what you guys said, I think it's exactly the game they wanted to make, for better or for worse. I think. Just to start with the few things that really bother me, I do think that they had a real sort of vision in mind, and I feel like it's 100 years ago, and things were a lot slower and clunkier, and it kind of rings through everything. I mean, I think part of it's by design, part of it may just not be by design. It's just kind of unfortunate. I think the UX is pretty bad. I think the whole interface and stuff is very static and very sort of clunky and difficult to maneuver. I don't like the fast L1 stuff. A lot of things just take a lot of time. Like just these long, slow moments between things. There's no cell phones ringing. There's no constant distractions. There's like these long moments of just like nothing, traveling in the wilderness, and even just interfacing with things takes a long button push. And a lot of things just have this kind of really drawn out sort of manual feeling to them, which I think is amazing. And it's the UX is starting to kind of resonate with me a bit more. I mean, it's been like 20 hours now, so I'm kind of finally getting used to this stuff. I think for a shooting game, again, to the Houser's credit, like this is what they wanted to do, and I've just never liked their shooting mechanics. I think any first-person shooter by any major studio does a much better job of just mechanics, of just
the fundamentals,
handling, the fundamentals of just like gunplay and just like moving your cursor on the screen. I don't like snapping to shoot, but if you go to free aim, it's just like unusable. Like I've played a million first-person shooter games that have way better controls than this. I know the FPS controls on PS4 are capable of amazing things, and this game just does not exercise this stuff. But none of their games do it. It's obviously just not a priority for them. To their credit, they can go look at the gazillion sales we made. So who cares? Like people don't care.
I think
they do. I think
there's a couple of bits in that. Yeah, I think you're right on the 3 Cs, or the controls and the camera sort of stuff is one topic. I think there's another bit about the pacing, which is that it's incredibly deliberate and very slow. And I actually think that's great. I think don't rush me. It's not that it fits the tone of the world. It's sort of perfect for me in that context. And then I think it's the other one is sort of about their priorities. Because obviously it's not a lack of money and a lack of time that means it's awkward to aim. It's that they don't care. That they're fine with the other bit. So the bit that the immersion of their world is what's key to them.
But that all being said, the rest of the game is stunning. Like it took me a while to even process what's going on. Like it's so insanely polished and done, and it feels like a true next generation thing. Like I'm sitting there just riding for hours in the woods, I'm completely entertained, like amazed, blown away. Completely role playing this place and this moment, and acting like I'm not a sociopath murderer, sir. I'm trying to play the game like as respectfully as I can. I'll shoot back in self-defense, and if you want to cause problems, like I'll fight back. But I'm not like running around like an animal. I'm trying to be kind of a rational, reasonable human. And the world makes it hard for you sometimes. Like you're getting jumped by a lot of people. It's desperate times. There's a lot of desperate people out there. But I mean, I've just spent hours and hours and hours just running around, just going like, oh my god, this is so. It looks like an Albert Bierstadt painting. Like I'll come over a ridge and I just stop, and the music's kind of slowly twinging by, and I'm like watching the geese flying north, and I'm just like, this is insanity. This is insanity.
It's really odd because I definitely have that next gen feeling a number of times, but then I have a very distinct previous gen feeling with a lot of the gameplay. Like the clunkiness we were talking about, like that's the weird thing because the clunkiness I actually kind of like. I like the clunkiness and like the spending of time for everything I do. Like looting a body takes like, for my feeling compared to a lot of modern games, it takes like 5.5 minutes. Like going through a building, I'm like, well, I guess this is my next 20 minutes. Let's go look at this, right? Like let's go. Like anything I do is like a time commitment, whether it's traveling to a place or taking on a quest or helping a person or deciding that I want to do something random. It's always a time commitment, and I actually really like that. Like in a weird way, Red Dead is not a game about being a cowboy. It's a game about spending time, and I actually really like that.
Well, I think you're right. And I think sorry, go on.
I think there's a lot about the game that feels previous gen that was mentioned before. Like the UX is not. It gets in the way of that experience. It feels like a UX that wants to do everything right now. It wants to tell you what is up right now all the time. And I just don't want that. I want to like chill out. And I love that they have the cinematic mode, which is a great idea, but my horse just keeps running into trees, so I don't use it.
I ran into a thing and got shot up, and I was just like, they were totally not on screen, and I was just like, literally hit this caravan, and like the guy just freaked out and just shot me down. I was just like, okay.
There was a really good video of something that happened to me where I was trying to shoot a guy on a ridge, and then I wanted to press circle for a reason, and I just straight up punched the guy next to me, and then when I shot again, the punch had rotated my character to aim at him, so when I shot again, I just straight up close up executed him. No way, he was helping. No, okay, well. Fair enough. So it's weird how that it has all the beauty and the grandeur and the like wow factor of a next gen, and at the same time it's just so broken.
I think I think it sticks with it. It's like this. I translate part of that as a love of physicality in the world. You know, you have to go to bed to sleep. You know, you have to go to the point to kick off the mission. I actually have to pick up the body to loot it. All these sorts of things. I think it's a commitment to the concrete nature of the world that I like. Well, that's what I like about it. And yes, it takes time because to make it go fast would to make it feel paper thin and inconsequential and light. So I like that. But then when we cross to aiming, that's the bit that blows my mind. You know, like those bits, like spending the time, or all those bits, or forcing me to, you know, to camp. All these, I actually like these parts because they're saying this is the world you're in, makes it feel like a real place. But every time you tell that story, you laugh, which is fine. There's an element of satire to, you know, all of Rockstar's work. But when you accidentally shoot someone in the head, then that is categorically a failure of the UX. You know, like you didn't make a plan to say what's going to happen when I shoot him in the head. You're like, oh shit, I shot someone in the head. You know, another one of like, you know, anyway, there's a million where the buttons sort of switch meanings, you know, and so you're like trying to chat. Crazy. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you instead killed them. I like ran to a door too fast and tackled someone, and then everyone started shooting me. All these things where you're like, it's funny, but it's not what I intended.
Right.
Is it just like y'all said, like the weapons just don't feel like I'm a firm believer that you should only create a first person shooter by its shotgun. Like that's the full thing. If the shotgun is good, you made a good FPS. And it's just there's no gun in Red Dead Redemption that makes me go like, I shot a gun.
Have you tried the slugs in the shotgun?
Yes.
So to me, the sawed-off hand shotgun with the slugs in it just is like the most environmentally destructive thing, and it knocks dudes right off the horses in one hit. It's really satisfying. I don't ever use shotgun shells. I always just stock up on shotgun slugs every time. It's amazing.
They're nice, but it also reminds me that every other gun in the game is just kind of miserable.
Kind of boring,
it's and it's weird because like I kind of get it, because again it's like the commitment to the world, right? Like a lot of guns don't do that much damage, and aiming a gun is kind of hard. But then to play to the fantasy, you're supposed to play this cool gunslinging like hero, anti-hero character that's supposed to be good with guns. And I don't know, but my Arthur is terrible with guns. He's awful. I'm like I'm on a horse and there's a wolf running straight ahead, and I had to play that. Remember that sequence at the beginning of the game where you have to shoot like 4 wolves or something? I had to replay that like 6 times in a row. Because I'm still trying to get used to the horse controls, and they are a little slow, like everything. There's momentum and physicality to it. So the horse just doesn't give, like it doesn't care about what I want to do. And at the same time, I'm trying to aim.
I will say that the horse, I'm impressed with the horse. I'm not a huge horse fan in a lot of games. I thought the Shadow of the Colossus did a really good job, but this one is definitely the best horse I've ever played. I think, you know, it was a little clunky at first, but some of this stuff, as I'm putting, you know, more and more hours into it, the relationship I've got with my horse now is the best I've ever had in any game, I think, pretty easily. And understanding, like, he is this entity. He does have kind of his own, you know, thing going on. But as you sort of build that relationship, sort of understand his stuff and can communicate with him sort of in time, you have to be a little, you know, proactive about pulling and turning and stuff like that. But I do really enjoy riding my horse in this game. And I think it's the first time in a game like this I've ever been, like, really connected to it and being like, okay, cool, this is great. I play the game mostly in first person. I don't really like third person.
You play in first person?
Whoa.
That's crazy town.
It's amazing. I mean, it really, to me, third person is always so zoomed out. Like, I don't feel like I'm part of the world. Everything's kind of remote and tiny. And this game in particular, like, you got to change the FOV from the get-go. It's way too tight at first. But if you open it up a bit and then turn off the head bob, because the head bob is insane, walking around the town at that point becomes way more immersive.
You want to be like an Unreal Tournament bot inside Red Dead Redemption.
Yes. Seriously, though, when you're walking around, like, the level of detail that you see in everything around you and the expressions you see on the faces, I mean, everything becomes way more real, and you can spend way more time just walking around a casino, you know, or a saloon, looking at people, talking to people. You feel like you're in that world. They do a really good job, and so that has been amazing. But on third person, on the horse automatically, because the first person on the horse just doesn't work. So I haven't zoomed out every time. But yeah, I mean, the first person thing has actually saved this game for me, because third person games really don't work for me nearly as well as first person. And this thing in first person it's pretty stunning. I got to say, it really changes the pace of things. He also walks really slow in third person. And in third person, I'd also turned off the kind of tap to run, and I just have kind of as a toggle. So it feels way more FPS-y than I think maybe they were originally going for. But it does make the game feel a lot more responsive, and the visuals are just like magnified. Like it looks way better in first person than it does in third person at all.
You think? I have the opposite. Like every time I go into first person, I'm just like, oh, there's it was definitely
a bit.
Okay, maybe that's it. I should try that.
The head bob is insane. The head bob.
Yeah, the head bob is off the chart. Yeah, it's like you're on a horse all the time. Anyway. Also, what happened? Like, it was Nintendo. Like the previous horse I liked was Zelda.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild.
But yeah, Breath of the Wild. But the thing I loved most about Breath of the Wild was I think it was, and they didn't get it 100% right, but just to quote that, like, real horses don't run into trees. And like, my horse has run into every possible thing. It has run into trains. It has run into trees. It has no sense of self-preservation. It's remarkable how much they stuck to the bit of like, this is a real world, but also your horse is 100% has some issues and should probably like.
Well, I think there's a commitment to the art and the realization of what I mean. They do things that you don't see in other games, such as when they build a house. The chairs, the arrangement of the chairs and the furniture is really not built for ease of navigation. You know what I mean? There are chairs that won't move, that are in corners, that get you into sort of locked spots. And I think with the world too, they made a forest that looks exactly the way you would believe a forest looks. And so my bet on the horse is that you ended up in a situation where you can barrel through these forests, and it's really difficult, and then you can't have the horse stop dead. You know what I mean? So they're like, well, I guess we're committed to launching you off that horse at this point. But there's an amazing one where you can get hit in the chest by a cross branch, and the horse keeps going, and that one feels exactly the way I imagine it would. I think that's terrific.
Actually, one of my favorite Red Dead moments so far was the sound effect when your horse hits a tree. Like that. whoever did that Foley,
good job.
That is a good sound effect. It's like crunchy and kind of like squishy, and you're just like, huh. I hope they didn't actually record a horse running into something, because I will just believe it.
There's a lot of baseball bats in hanging chunks of meat, I reckon, in that game.
Have you guys noticed that when you're riding the horse, the auto map, if you set your waypoint, it is terrible. It's like as bad as Google Maps. It sends you like halfway across the map back just to get back onto the road, and then like your target's like right over here. So I'm always looking at the map, going, no, I actually just need to go that way. But they don't. I think the waypoint system only works for roads. So a lot of times you got to just completely disregard it, and because going over the country, unless there's a cliff, I mean, it's the same as going over a road almost. I mean, maybe a little slower, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm confused too about the level of. Sometimes if you just hold the button and you're on a path, you're on a waypoint or whatever. A lot of times the horse will just like stick to it and do it, and everything's fine. And then sometimes he just doesn't. Sometimes he just veers off and heads into the river or whatever.
It's a simulated horse. It's got a mind of its own.
It's thirsty, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. There's no thirst meter I can see.
Hey, Alex, I'm curious, since you worked on Assassin's Creed 3 and Far Cry 4, somewhat similar-ish games, when you play a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, are you seeing all the magic behind the curtains? Do you understand what's going on? Like, what has stumped you? What do you see in this game that you say, how the hell is this possible?
Well, I'm sure it's the same. The genre doesn't change much. I'm sure everyone on the call can sort of see, where they're working within the boundaries of the technology and when they're working within the boundaries of the idea. It is funny though, having, worked on Assassin's 3, where we were in a very similar, time period in a very similar place. And so early on we had missions where I remember working on our version of that, someone being, lost flowing down a stream, someone hanging from a cliff, a wagon. So lots of these moments were sort of familiar. So you can do a 1-to-1 on like what did they prioritize, or what did they choose to do differently. And I think that Assassin's 3 is probably the closest to a Rockstar of the Assassins version. Probably the early, up until 3, we were leaning on the sort of more, immersive world and let you do unusual things style of open world. And since then it's been more RPG Witcher style, the teams that have taken over that. But yeah, just like the commitment to detail is the thing that blows my mind. And also stuff we could never do quite well enough, which is the transition between exteriors and interiors, which I think is magnificent. Just how they get that lighting to work when you're outside and it's night and you see the light inside. That is some voodoo shit as far as I'm concerned, because we always had to do lighting switches and like a weird tight animation going through a door, like all kinds of tricks, and they seem to somehow do it. And their sunsets and skyboxes are just phenomenal. Every time I look at it, I find it's gorgeous.
Do you notice though? I totally agree on every point, but do you notice that I see a snap between lights, like when the sunset's going down, or like there's a couple different lighting sets that it kind of does a visual, like it goes down like visually. I'm like, whoa, that was weird.
Yeah, there's a few artifacts I see as well, but if I just stop on a cliff and look at that sunset, I could look at their sky for hours.
The light model in general is incredible. Just everything light related, like I don't know how much they're doing, but like the physicality of the light and like it's just
that's a good word.
Mind blowing.
The fog and the steam and this stuff comes and goes, and you're just like, it doesn't look like game fog. I don't know what they're doing, but it's just some other sort of volumetric lighting simulation. I don't know what's going on. I love it.
Is it just budget? I mean, how do you account for this? Budget and time?
It's just people and time, which equates to budget. You can sit on it longer and longer, and they have that they can. I mean, someone was joking. I think my friend Jonathan Cooper was joking online the other day. There was 4,000 people in the credits. So if you do 4,000, even assuming a ramp across 7 years, that's a lot of man hours. You know what I mean? Like, so you look into that, and that blows my mind a little bit. Also, I said it to the team here at Typhoon, and the whole room as one said, I will never work on a game for 7 years in my life. So I think that's fascinating. There's half the studio did Assassins, the other half did Far Cry and Batman games, and they were like, these days, that idea just fills them with terror. Maybe it's just that we're all bald and grey now, but the idea of being on something for 7 years, even if it's the best thing ever, just is kind of crazy.
Yeah, how do you... go ahead.
It's resources, but and obviously there's the whole less pretty side of that whole story. Like a game like that, even with 7 years, is not easily made without people working more than they should. So there's a lot of what impresses me about the game. I think would still exist without some of that crunch, but I don't think. It's weird because a lot of what impressed me about the game could have been done without crunch. I think the level of detail that they have on everything probably couldn't. And I have very mixed feelings about that personally, because it ups the bar for our industry in such a 7 years of work of people who are, half crunched, 7 years of people that have worked with an infinite budget. Like it sets expectations that are not necessarily fair or good for the rest of the industry at the moment. So, as a small time indie, it doesn't directly affect me, but there's thoughts I have about that.
But I think that's true. It depends on. I mean, it depends on what weight class you're fighting in, I think, a little bit. So it's and for me, Rockstar, some of those games have pushed themselves out of competition with other people. Like even at Ubi, we were sort of aware we were competing with the Activisions and the EAs of this world, and in sort of that mainstream, the Konamis on their big projects, like for those AAA titles. But even then, you're like not really going to do 7 years, so you're not even in that. And then under that, as well, now being indie as well, that you can't even look at it. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't even possibly make a game, as a cowboy at the moment. You would be admitting pre-defeat.
I think the flip side of that though is that this is obviously a high watermark. Like it's such an instant masterpiece that I was like, all right, this is one of those games that'll go down in history as like, providing that new watermark for the next how long, and this coming this late in the generation and seeing how beautiful it is, like that this is what they always do. They're going to have this ready on the next generation of stuff, and I can't even fathom how prettier it could be. Like, I don't really understand where you go from here, besides maybe running all that at 60. Like,
just a side topic on that, though, fascinating, though, is I think that it's that the search for realism is about to evaporate because there's new tech coming in for scanning and grabbing things from the office that if it's art direction that'll win the next generation, even more so than it already does. So I think you'll be able to make a table and a chair in like 7 seconds and anyone could do it. So I think that level, if they're just trying to simulate it, that bit won't matter, like the man hours of the building of the world. But the story direction and the voice direction and the sort of like flow of the game is the thing that's super hard to emulate.
That's the thing about this game too. I mean, I'm an art director, so I look at a lot at this stuff, and I think even though it is this kind of photorealistic look, they're basically more or less going after. There's an element of stylization that is highly consistent throughout the whole thing. I mean, really, I just keep thinking like how clear this vision was. I mean, they were obviously looking at a lot of these old Western paintings, and they're saying, okay, the light, the colors, the depth, the atmosphere. Like, how are we going to take all this stuff? We're going to nail it. We're going to hold it super consistent, and we're going to execute on this. And they did a phenomenal job, in my opinion. And I really am just
it's gorgeous.
I think it's some of the best art direction of the year, like for sure.
Yeah, I also have that feeling. Like it's a weird balance between pure like realism and also like kind of like I don't know, like a painting, like Western paintings, like book covers, like stuff like that, where they're sitting somewhere between the two realms, but they haven't. But it's not abstracted. It's
It's the genius. It's romantic. The thing that it's romantic.
Romantic realism. Yes.
The Rockstar genius has always been to give you the fantasy of Los Angeles, the fantasy of being a crime boss, the fantasy of being a cowboy. So you do all the things that you've seen in a movie. Someone gets punched out of a bar through a window. Someone flops over the edge. And, exactly. You steal a wagon and a train, all this stuff. And so you're hitting all the big fantasy points, which is brilliant. Like I've always seen open world games myself as vacations. Like I'm building a vacation playground for someone. So it's as real as it could be, but really it's a holiday in the American Revolution, and then it's a holiday in Nepal, but things go horribly wrong. You need your twist, on these things, but you build that fantasy for people who probably will never be able to get there or be able to go there. So their point of reference isn't reality. Their point of reference is this sort of, there's a TV reference or a painting reference or a book, a novelization reference. And I think they're the best in the world by far at that.
Right. One of the things I like about what they're leaning into is the grit of that time period. Obviously, never having lived there, but I think logic that tells us where technology was at that time is that it was a really hard time to live in. But there was decades of entertainment when it comes to westerns where they really fantasized it, and I think made it it made it maybe a little more appealing than it probably was. But one of the things I like about this game is just walking through the towns and seeing the way that people are dressed and seeing the stain marks on them. Like you do get to feel a little more about this was a really hard time and place to live in. And I think a lot of westerns really lose on that. Like it's more like the Sunset Riders, vision of the westerns, which I'm not as interested in, obviously.
Yeah, the world is the world is an incredible character. Like more than anything, like the world is the main character in that game, and I'm sure there's somebody who wrote this think piece already, but that is you can see through the seams if you're really paying attention, but if you're just playing and letting it come at you, like this world feels as real as anything I've ever played in a video game. Like just getting into a town and seeing somebody jump on a train as it's driving, like just like this little scripted moment. I went back, reloaded, and checked if it was scripted. It was scripted, but like I would have 100% believed it, right? And that's the smoke and mirrors of our work. Is it doesn't matter whether it's scripted or dynamic as long as I believe it.
Yep.
I believe it. I believe that world.
That's where the scale of this thing just kind of comes together. Where I screwed up. There was a mission you guys probably know what I'm talking about. But the first time I went into Blackwater, you're not supposed to go down that way yet, or I didn't think you were supposed to. The way that it was set up, the way it was presented to me, I didn't think I was supposed to go down that way yet. So I went looking for other missions, and there was no other missions on the map. So I just did this huge run all the way down south, and the whole time was just phenomenal, just watching the countryside slowly change. I got on these little mishaps and adventures, and to me that's what the open world thing is all about. So I don't want to do this scripted thing right now. I want to go off and just explore and have fun and have these adventures just kind of thrown at me, and they're very emergent. A lot of them are they're kind of scripted little setups that are sort of procedurally placed around. In fact, one time I screwed up a save game thing. I don't know what happened, but I went back probably an hour or so, and in a totally different part of the map I re-experienced a lot of the same people on the side of the road and a lot of this little circumstances that were obviously kind of scripted for about that time in my playthrough, but they're obviously happening in random places. But still, that just allows for all this role playing and all this do I want to get involved with this? Do I want to go rob these people? Do I think I could steal something from them? Do I want to not get involved? Do I want to go after that bear I just saw? I had all these crazy adventures. I got all my snow clothes and went up into the mountains and just went exploring and was tracking deer and got in a fight with a bear, and then some wolves came out, and it just this long adventure that's completely my own, experience.
Well, but I think that's where the game shines, and that's what I love. My worst experience with it was the opening 2 hours. You know what I mean? Where I just want to ride off into the sunset and shoot a bear and fall off my horse and get drunk in a bar, and instead I was going through this very measured, tutorial heavy, which seemed mostly about syncing my movement speed on a horse, on foot, in a wagon, in a crowd, everything with the people around me. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily want to engage with this. Whereas I think the town, that you have, or the little, I shouldn't say town, your camp that you have is magical because you can engage as much as you want. You can come back and chat to them if you want. You can ignore them if you want. And so it does give you that role-playing feeling that you were talking about, Jake, where you just you can choose to interact or not interact, and you still feel free and as though you're the agent of change as opposed to just a passenger.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I wish I could play it right now.
I actually really like the opening moments. Like they're actually some of my favorite parts of the game so far, which is weird because I'm normally like open worlds, just let me do whatever. But I really liked the complete sense of dread throughout the entire sequence. Like I don't expect to open a game on like, wow, we are like Uncharted has done it. Like there's games that have done it, like the slow, absolutely everything is screwed. But I think it's a good defining moment for the gang and the camp is to start at their lowest point and kind of like try and build from there. The camp is weird to me though, because I love the camp in that sequence, and I've kind of fallen out of love with it as the game goes. Like it feels more and more like a quest giver. Even though I interact, like Dutch doesn't feel like the lead of the camp. Like I'm the lead of the camp. Yeah. Dutch is just there. Like I'm the boss. Like I'm sure Dutch is like this charismatic like lead, but like what's Dutch doing? He's hanging out in the camp. I'm going out and like, being like, hey Dutch, you want to hear what I've been up to? Because it's great. Let me tell you how your story progresses. And I understand the tension that they have there. Obviously, like it's not that's not something you can easily fix. But yeah, I started really in love with this gang, and not for reasons of story, but for reasons of mechanics. I've kind of like slowly drifted away from loving it as much.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I haven't moved camps yet. I think you do, but I was really impressed with the opening.
I don't want to know.
Like I said, I haven't like you're the most clunky at the beginning. Like you don't know what's going on with the controls, and they're kind of walking you through stuff, but I thought it was a really bold move to move into like the snowstorm at night. I mean, it's one of the most graphically, like visually over the top, just insanely beautiful things you've ever seen in a game. And they throw you right into it, Normally you kind of like work your way up to some sort of dramatic moment like that. And they just throw you right in the shit. And the lights and the snow coming down. I was just like, what is this, a game or a movie? Like, what is happening here? And I agree. I was like, hurry up, take the leash off so I can go, play.
Sure.
But I was willing to let it
go with it
this time and to really sort of introduce the characters and kind of set up the dynamic of like who these people are. Like it's an unusual group, right? Usually it's a gritty group of bandits and or whatever. And this is kind of like it's a whole bunch of people. There's like women and children and like we're bad guys, but we're not. And people are taking care of each other. And I thought it was really interesting, just kind of as a setup of like what is the situation? And like there's this big mystery. Like I haven't played through the game enough to know what actually went down there yet. I'm assuming I'm going to find out. But
I mean, what happened on the boat? What happened? That's what in that start, everyone.
God,
what happened on the boat? I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't on the boat. It's reminding me that I'm not the character over and over and over again. I wasn't on the boat, dude.
I'm on a mountain in the snow. I don't know about a boat.
What about that boat? I thought we were starving to death. F the boat.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about how many actors that they've hired and all the motion capture and all that stuff that they did. But it's a very talky game unless you're by yourself right on your horse. But I'm surprised about how much dialogue they had. But it goes back to like I think one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the conversation, which is about the fact that this is a very auteur driven game, and just how bold it is. They know that they have pre-orders of millions of copies, right? That they're going to sell tens of millions of units, and they're going to get a lot of their GTA fan base to probably check this thing out just by sheer fact of the fact that it's Rockstar. And I'm just sitting there playing that opening, Jake, right, and thinking, wow, I'm just like so. It's a weird way to look at it, but I'm just so happy that tens of millions of kids that buy GTA and play Rockstar games because they can just like run around and shoot and just do whatever they want to do are kind of being forced through this pretty interesting and dark and deep epic, like more or less on rails experience. And then also just reading like comments online about, just how we talked about the animation, how unresponsive it is. It's like, it's almost like overly detailed. Right. But I love that about it. And I just kind of like love to like, I'm like drinking the tears of all these like kids online going like, I just want to hit the button to like pick up stuff. I don't like, let me skip the animations. Like,
I think we're in agreement on that. No, I think my favorite, on Assassin's 3, my favorite bit that we did was there's 2 hours in the middle of the game in a blockbuster that's in an appropriate, period appropriate Native American language, and just forcing 30 million 15-year-olds to read subtitles. It still makes me jolly. Like, every time I think about it, I'm like, listen to it. This
is good. You only have to do it for 2 hours. Then you get your gun. Then you get
you gotta go. Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Slow start. Screw you. 6 hours. Listen to it.
Sit down. Right.
Ryan, what do you think about the performances specifically, Ryan? What stands out just in the way they're recorded and the performances themselves?
I think for the most part quite natural. I've got this thing where I was playing last night and I noticed that they were doing it, which irritates me about Rockstar games, that they talk like, and now I'm going to tell you guys, and it's going to ruin the game for everybody, is that go back to like Vice City, like they talk with their hands. It's like, you're going to go over here? Okay, cool, man. I'll see you later, man. Like they just like, they really fully utilize the magic of motion capture. And I think for a game where like in the opening in particular, it's very subtle, right? And I think in a very good way. And so I think for the most part, it's done really, really well. When they get into the over exaggeration, it's where I start to like lose a little bit of interest. But I mean, the performances are really great. I mean, and I would just love to know the story about the actor who played, is it Arthur Morgan?
Arthur, yeah.
And just how many sessions, like how many days, years has he been this character, right? And it was with like I was also thinking about like the scale of the game, and I'm also recently played Spider-Man, and just like, man, the scale of games is getting so so massive, and the amount of time that they probably spent with the actor Yudi to play Spider-Man, like over the course of that development, they really get to know these characters because of the scale of the game. They're just living that character all the time, like a good TV show, right? Where I don't think games oftentimes afford that. Like on Metal Gear, we maybe spent 5-10 days, with our main actors, because the game is long, but not that long, right? And they have to live it for only about 10 days, right?
Yeah. How do y'all feel about Arthur? Like for as far as, because I'm in that weird stage where Arthur is kind of my character, but also really isn't my character. Like for me, A Quiet Time is a terrible mission because I don't drink. So like going into that and being like Arthur. I've been told it made me very confused about why people drink, but like that's because all of that seemed awful to me.
But isn't that part of the I'm sure that there's a huge chunk of the audience breaking that rating on the cover, and they're not allowed to drink either. It's part of the fantasy of it's something cowboys did, and now you're living the moment. I don't shoot people either, but it's like
Yeah, so that's the weird thing because Arthur is me, but also not me. They're walking this very fine line between Arthur is your character with your morality, with your sense of like affecting this world, but also Arthur is just Arthur, and I'm like he's kind of a grumpy old ass.
But how's that different than any game like this? I mean, you always have to sort of assume.
Well, no. I think to his point, to Rami's point, I think it's really good because the best GTA is GTA 3. Where he doesn't talk, he's just an avatar that I inhabit. So I am in GTA 3. I didn't want to be Nico Bellic. He was a jerk. The same thing. You know what I mean? I didn't like him. 5, I sort of made peace because I could jump around, so I was the weird puppet master, between the characters. But I agree. I'd prefer to be, a guy in this who just never spoke, and Dutch would therefore have a chance to be the leader because he had to give all the speeches, and all these other people would talk and could be their characters, and I'm just the agent of change that moves to it. It's the version that I would like.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused by it because the amount of times they give you the sense of affecting the character is huge. Like they really try to make you feel like you decide how you deal with things and you decide how you respond to people. But like in the end, like I'm not quite sure if it's just a part of the game I'm in, but he feels very railroaded.
Well, but you're also in the uncanny valley. You're in the uncanny valley of interaction where you don't choose, you just choose how you do it in Rockstar games. You choose, you know what I mean? You're going to choose, do you strangle him or do you kill him? Or do you like shoot him or do you, do you slap him around or just yell at him? Because they're telling a story. Like it's a story-based game. There's a few moments where they make it a bit blurrier, but like they're going to make you do what he did,
I think that's the part that I had to kind of come to grips with. There was a mission where there's a couple different ways to go about it, but I ended up needing to shoot up the whole town. Like I basically walked into town.
It just had to happen.
No way out. You could leave the town. It was
you didn't have a horse.
It was one of the missions. Did you guys play the Mika mission? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You kind of have to shoot up the town. And so I did that, and I was like, you know what? That's not me, bro. Like I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go back in. I'm gonna find a way through this mission that doesn't require me to shoot up all these people. And then I literally walk around in first person for half an hour saying hello to everybody. And now I'm this guy. So I went back and did it again, and I realized the second time, going at a totally different path. This is just part of the mission. This is how it goes down. And so I had to just be like, all right, now that I know this is up, like this moment happened to Arthur, who is not me. and I'm sort of, representing him. I'm his agent in a way, but like this is part of his story, and I have to just go along with the stuff, even though this part is more of the, the story stuff is more driven, and I have to just kind of go along on the rails for this part, and it doesn't really represent me kind of having the choice that I do in the open world part of the stuff. And so there is some dichotomy there, but I think I finally kind of accepted it and got my piece with it. And just sometimes when he does bad things, I'm like, well, I am kind of a bad guy, and it's a bad time. And
maybe it's like an uncanny valley of seamlessness, like because they so seamlessly meander between this is you and this is where you control the character and this is just what happens to Arthur. That it's hard
it's so
to
beautiful.
catch.
A lot of times you can't tell when the game has started again.
Yeah,
you like standing there for a minute. You're like, oh, I guess I'm back up. Okay,
it's kind of how you can make people feel like, how you can make players feel like they made a choice when you actually took it for them. Like I think Red Dead is incredibly good at that. But when it breaks really hard. Like I think this is the problem with a game of that skill and that level of like graphical detail is the first time my carriage launched into the sky because the horse clipped into the ground. It's like, and it was beautiful, by the way. I loved it. It was like the most beautiful god rays around my carriage. But like the game when it breaks, it does this. It has this. Maybe it's the Rockstar brand, but it's okay. It's like this beautiful, consistent, realistic world, and also my character is under a 90-degree angle, spinning circles for no reason, just floating in the sky half a meter above the ground, and I'm just laughing, and it's good. It's fine.
I haven't seen anywhere near the stuff like you would see in a Bethesda game. I mean, it's very It's been a couple little weird things. There's one time I saw guys, the horses drew in a moment after they kind of appeared. I was like, okay, this is a physical, this is a game limited by technology. Because most of the time, those scenes are pretty hidden. It's
I think it's probably the most polished Rockstar game I feel like I've ever played. And I would love to know when they basically decided to lock it down. Because I remember hearing about them going through cert for like GTA 5, 6, 9 months before the game was actually finished. Just how massive these games are and how long it takes to go through that process and lock down that game. And I feel like they probably could have shipped this game in September or August or even maybe earlier, but I'm glad that they put the time in, and I think it really speaks to like what they're trying to achieve with like the auteurness of it. It's having quite a polished experience. Now I'm sure if I can go online, I'm sure there's a bunch of edge casey stuff like Rami was saying. Like if you want to poke at the world, you can see behind the curtain a little bit. But I'm playing mostly main path. I'm not trying to break it, and if I stay within that realm, I'm seeing a lot of polish, which I typically don't see.
No, it's incredibly.
I can't help it.
You gotta break it.
It's just the thing I do, especially with worlds like this. But most of the things I found, I kind of found by accident. I've had a train explode while I drove by because I guess something ran into it, and I didn't see anything, but it was kind of like just like the back part fell apart, and I was like, oh,
sounds good,
reasonable. But there's something weird about it. Like there's something so alluring about the level of fidelity in this world that after that happens, your brain is very good at just switching back to like, oh, this is a beautiful forest.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, my weird one is if you because again everything is so ponderous. When you're riding your horse quickly, if you ride past birds, you just run over the birds. You know what I mean? Like they sort of fly up and bounce off you like some sort of rubber duck. You know what I mean? And again, I was like, oh, free hunting. But I think that to your point before about the uncanny valley stuff of interaction is that people have talked about this for years, but the rate of evolution and the quality increase in graphics and animation and sort of and sound has radically outpaced the improvement in the actual interaction itself. Like it's much faster if you decide, hey, I want to be nice like you did. It's really hard. Like before I did open world stuff, I worked on Sims games and sport and all these things, and trying to come up with an equal opportunity path for positivity is a nightmare. Like there's a podcast in that if we want to get into that. Like, because the social cost of being obnoxious is usually embarrassment, and that is hard to animate. You know what I mean? Like the death by embarrassment is not the same thing. And I feel that every time in the camp, like you chat to them for a while and it holds together much longer than other games have. And I'm like, wow, they really seem to know what I just did. I can have an opinion about it, but you push 2 levels and then it collapses again. You're like, have a good day, and you're like, oh, they're all puppets.
So in first person, you tend to get right up on people to talk to them, where they're like at a like a reasonable kind of distance for talking.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, do you mind? You're like, why are you talking? I didn't realize I was in your grill. I'm sorry. Everybody gets angry at me, like, do you mind? What are you staring at? I'm like, okay, all right, sorry.
Jake, I think I know what you're thinking when you're playing the first-person mode, which is what I'm thinking, is that, man, I really hope this thing is in VR next year on PC.
Why would you want to vomit while playing a video game? I don't understand.
I don't get VR sickness anymore. And imagine that game with completely cinematic first person and real gun controls where you could just point and shoot. Oh my god!
I mean, there was hints in the code somewhere, right, for like the companion app that they were hinting at Oculus or something.
There was a line of code in there about an Oculus Rift or something like that for some compatibility, which is like giving me a lot of hope that next year when they eventually ship on PC, which they're going to, and then somebody's going to hack it in anyway, and it's probably going to be that's where you're going to start throwing up, Alex, is because
I'm just imagining it. I'm feeling nauseous.
Yeah, just to wrap things up, do you guys have any final thoughts that you'd just die if you didn't get off your chest about this game?
Only one for me is we're all going to get hate mail because we had issues with the game of the year. So understand that we've all been very positive. So don't threaten my mother or my family or my workplace, please.
It's a weird thing. We talk about a lot on this podcast of we're all super impressed by it, but I think there's a weird split in the Game Informer office, at least, of you have to check yourself of, am I having fun though? Am I having fun minute to minute?
I'm not. It's the least
I'm not having
fun.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's not a fun game. Yeah.
What a good note to end on.
But that's kind of why it's great. I think Ryan kind of nails it. Like it's not fun. This game isn't fun. There's nothing fun. Like it's a chore. It's like a long.
But fun is but fun is a terrible word. Why do we use that word? It's enjoyable. I'm immersed. I'm loving it. I'm having a great time. But it's not fun. I agree. It's not.
I'm not even sure I enjoy it.
No way out.
I'm just like continuously. I'm like, oh god, okay, well let's sit on my horse for the next 25 minutes getting to this other thing, and then I just get randomly shot by some guy that I robbed 25 hours ago, and I'm like, well come on, like at this point, like can I just pay you back or something? But that's like, in a way, that is why I haven't quit. Like I bounce off of Red Dead continuously. Like I play it for 2 hours and I go, this is bullshit. I shut it down. I boot up Destiny. I have some fun with a good shotgun and a fusion rifle, punch some stuff, and then the next day I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll give it another go. And then I'm like 5 hours later, and then I go, screw this. I hate it. I'm not enjoying myself. And then the next day I'm just fucking. So
I can't quit you, man.
A lot of big budget games like this. This is not one of them.
I didn't bounce off this one. I bounced off Destiny though, so we should do the Red Dead versus Destiny. I'm a human loot box. I'm just a random number generator getting pointless increments of things and slowly dying.
Such a good gun. Such good guns.
Great guns.
My life escaping when I play Destiny.
Very good gun.
I was when I first started playing, I was freaking out, like the production quality and stuff, and I was just like, oh my god, like the first 20 minutes in, you're just like, what is happening? And I played for a couple hours, and I was just like, wow, like this. I mean, like I hated the interface right away, but like I was like, I'm gonna get over it. I'll suck it up. And I kept playing, and I was just like, wow, this is like really, like I think I tweeted like this is one of the best games I've ever played. And my buddy John Riccardi up in Tokyo was like, oh, better than Breath of the Wild, huh? I see how it is. And I was like, it took me a moment, and I was like, you can't even compare these things. It's like, I'm like, why can't you? Because they're very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, on paper.
But they're not even like you can't even begin to compare them because that is a video game. Like you jump around and you do stuff and everything. The controls are perfect and like, that's a video game. This is not a video game in that sense. It's this cloggy, clunky sort of like weird hybrid between cinema and game that, in its own right, is this phenomenal thing. But I don't feel like it's gamey and like immediately responsive. And like the reasons that I play video games generally is definitely not really included in this game. But this is like this whole other thing, and I'm like completely content to just sit back and be like, all right, yeah, throw it at me. This is amazing. Like I do think the open world stuff and the choice and the experience of this just massive world that is so big that you can't even believe it is unlike anything I've ever played before. I definitely think it's in a class of its own.
Yeah, for sure. Ryan, anything you want to plug before you take off here, man?
No, this has been super fun. Thanks for inviting us to have this really fun chat. Just like Alex said, like internet, I love this video game. I love you. I love your family. This has been super. This has been
Stay safe, Rami. Stay safe.
Jesus Christ.
And thanks for organizing.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, guys. I had a great time.
Cool. Appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.
I got the conclusion. It's not a good video game. It's a great Red Dead. That's it.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
They should get the Game Awards. They should get that award.
Best Red Dead of the year.
Best Red Dead.
Best Red Dead is
Red Dead.